Good evening. It's 6 p.m., January 8th, 2025, and I would like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for this evening. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being televised live on local cable channel 8 and 1072 HD. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Next, does anyone have a public comment regarding anything not related to any agenda item tonight? If so, please check in with Mary Ann, 2 over to my left, and you can have 3 minutes to make a comment at the end of the night. Anybody have one of those?
End of the hearing.
End of the hearing, yes. Okay, thank you. Next, for some strange reason, after every hearing or during the middle of every hearing, I ask for public comment. If I ever make a mistake and don't ask for that public comment, please remind me. Generally speaking, it's in the middle, and I sometimes ask again at the end. But if I ever make a mistake and that doesn't happen, feel free to reach out to me, and I will deal with it appropriately and actually immediately. So, sitting on our first hearing tonight will be our 5 regular members. It's amazing.
I'll do the first one.
It's good. You're all set, Scott, with 2 Ned Bess?
Yeah.
Good. So that being said, George, would you like to read 2 Ned Bess Road into the record?
2 Ned Bess Road, owner Peter W. Solanas, trustee of the Solanas Realty Trust, requests a special permit under Section 174-17.1 and 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and replace it with a new single-family dwelling on property located in an R5 zoning district, map 21, parcel 2, Mashpee, Mass. Continued from 9/25/24, 10/9/24, and 11/13/24.
Counselor.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Christopher Corain. I'm representing Peter Solanius, the owner of 2 Ned Bessie Road, in this application under 174-17.1 and 174-30-33 for a raise and replace at 2 Ned Bessie Road. With me tonight is Brian Wallace. He's the project engineer with JC Engineering. Also, who is calling in is the builder, in case there's any questions about construction methods, things like that. So he's calling in, so he's available with any of those questions. So it's been a while. This project came before the board, November, I believe we were before the board, and was continued to address, a few questions that the board had regarding calculations regarding lot coverage, height, stories, things of that nature. So I want to kind of, because it's been well over a month, kind of bring the project back before the board and kind of recap. So again, it's a raise and replace under 174-17.1. It's a single-family dwelling. We're proposing to knock it down and rebuild it. It is located in the R5 zoning district. The R5 zoning district has the following minimum dimensional requirements: 80,000 square feet of lot area, 150 feet of frontage, a 40-foot front yard setback, 15-foot side and rear yard setbacks, 20% lot coverage max, and there is a 50-foot setback to wetland because of Mashpee Pond. We do have several nonconformities with this particular existing structure. First is the lot area is 12,644 square feet. So one of the questions that we had at the last hearing was whether we had appropriately deducted the resource areas, which includes the inland bank. So Brian is here to address that if there's any questions, but suffice it to say, 12,644 does include a reduction of the resource areas. So that is your lot area for zoning purposes. The total area of the lot is 12,800 square feet, but again, taking out the wetland resource areas, which is required under the bylaw, your actual lot area for zoning purposes, 12,644 square feet. That is a non-conforming condition. Our frontage is only 75 feet. That is a non-conforming condition. We are within the 50-foot setback to the wetland. That's non-conforming. Our north side yard setback is 9.9 feet. That is a non-conforming condition. Our south side yard setback is 8.6 feet. That is a non-conforming condition. And our current rear yard setback is 14.5 feet, which is a non-conforming condition. The lot coverage is 13.1%, so that is a conforming condition. So what we're proposing here does a lot of good things. We are reducing lot coverage from 13.1% to 11.1%. That is a approximate 262 square foot reduction in coverage from what is existing to proposed. We are eliminating the north side yard setback. We're going from 9.9 to 15.9. That becomes a conforming condition. We are eliminating the south side yard setback. We're going from 8.6 to 18 feet. That is a conforming condition. And we are eliminating the rear yard setback. So the rear yard setback is currently 14.5 feet, and we're going to 25.8. So again, the three setback nonconformities are all being eliminated. We're going to conforming conditions. And we're reducing the house size from what's existing as far as lot coverage and footprint. The house is also being moved further away from the wetland, so that's a benefit. I will note that the project has been approved by the Conservation Commission. The property, the new home will be building code compliant, and we are proposing dry wells for stormwater management. And again, the project has been approved by the Conservation Commission. So again, under 174-17.1, this board needs to determine three things. One is that no new nonconformities are being created. We are not creating any new nonconformities. There is sufficient parking for a residential structure, 2 parking spaces, 2 cars. We have that. And that the project is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what currently exists. And again, we're shrinking the size of the structure as far as lot coverage and square footage of what exists. That's a positive. We are eliminating 3 setbacks that are all non-conforming and making them conforming. Side yard setbacks, both of those are becoming conforming, and the rear yard setbacks becoming conforming. We're going to a building code compliant house, and again, we're allowing for stormwater management through dry wells, and again, it was approved by the Conservation Commission. So, you know, with that, I would certainly suggest to this board, there's no increase in the bedrooms. I will note, and there should be a Board of Health update. So originally, the plan had shown what the Board of Health considered 4 bedrooms, and that would have required a variance. We are eliminating that issue. We are keeping it as a 3-bedroom, no need for a variance. We submitted revised plans that Zach had reviewed, and I think he updated his note saying that it's a 3-bedroom to remain a 3-bedroom. So we're not worried about that. The only other variance they need from the Board of Health is regarding the septic system. So the Board of Health in this case, because we're in the Phase 2, allows the applicant to apply for a variance to keep the existing system until the sewer comes. And they have been allowing those variances or granting those variances in this situation where we're in Phase 2. We're going to be coming up with, you know, that connection. So they not requiring the IA system for this project. So,
Yes.
you know, we're consistent with redevelopment. I provided a letter that goes through a lot of different issues. One of the things I noted that, you know, there was a project at 24, Melissa, that was a knockdown and rebuild, you know, within the last 5 to 10 years. That was approved by this board. No issues, no complaints from the neighbor in that regard. So again, I would say it's consistent with the neighborhood. Our height is 29 feet, 8 inches, or 0.08 inches. That is well under the 35 feet. That is the max under the bylaw. We did provide Dave with revised calculations, because I know there was some confusion on his end of exactly how everything was measured. We've submitted those. I think Dave is, you know, he can speak to that, but I believe we satisfied his concerns. The height meets the requirement, the stories meet the requirements. There was also a concern about the groundwater protection overlay district. You know, I reached out to the health agent. He submitted comments. There's nothing else that he mentioned about the groundwater protection overlay district. We don't need a special permit. It's less than 2,500 square feet of impervious surface. I disagree with the consultant from the neighbor that says that the gravel is should be considered an impervious surface. I believe at the last meeting, David stated that he did not consider it impervious, that only, you know, a paved driveway is impervious. Gravel driveway is not impervious. So I don't think it meets that. So again, I don't believe we need a special permit from the groundwater protection overlay district.
Can I get some letters read to the record, please?
Board of Health comments. 2 Ned Best Road. Board of Health, septic is designed for 3-bedroom, and the house would be a 3-bedroom. The house is also in Phase 2 of the sewer project. There are no conservation comments, because they were, I guess, previously submitted. There are some letters.
Yeah, well, I'll read one from Fire Chief. Hi, Mary Ann. Oh, this is dated 1/8, 1:54 PM. Sorry about that. All right, this is from Joseph Pelletier, the Fire Chief, and it's to Mary Ann Romero. Dated today at 1:54 PM. Hi, Mary Ann. After visiting the site at 2 Ned Bessie Road, I observed that the existing driveway serves 2 residences, number 2 and number 6 Ned Bessie Road. Since the driveway is already in place, my request is that the road maintains an overhead clearance of 13 feet 6 inches and a minimum width of 20 feet. Additionally, I ask that the driveway be maintained regularly. During my site visit, I noticed a significant amount of debris on the driveway, which could limit access.
Any other letters?
2 abutter letters.
I can read the one dated January 8th.
Okay.
It's from A.M. Wilson Associates dated January 8th. It's about the Salinas Raise and Replace, to Ned Bessie. Dear Mr. Bonvy, on the behalf of our client, the owner of 26 Melissa Avenue, a direct abutter to 2 Ned Bessie Road, we offer the following comments. The applicant, through his counsel, as set forth in the Corain Memorandum dated January 3rd, 2025, now admits that the project is located in the Groundwater Protection Overlay District, GPOD, and is therefore subject to standards and constraints of Article 8, Section 174-76 through 174-83 of the bylaw. As the board is no doubt aware that the GPOD sets a limit on all impervious surfaces, not just building coverage. Impervious surfaces would include the driveway here, as it seems to have been expanded 3+ years ago without benefit of permit and therefore has no protected non-conforming status. Further, even though it is not paved, it is, as are all dirt parking areas, compressed through use to the point that it will be impenetrable by water. The GPOD definition of impervious, therefore, its area should be included in calculations to show conformance with sections 174-80F, which limits total impervious surfaces to 15% of the lot area. Here, it is 1896.6 square feet, or 2,500 square feet, which is greater. Unless a special permit is granted confirming that the project complies with section 174-82A4, which requires a storm water management design to ensure prevention of untreated discharge to wetlands and surface waters, preventing flooding, minimizing erosion and sedimentation, will not degrade groundwater. For single-family resident projects such as 2 Ned Bessie Road, this mitigation is to be provided through the use of rain gardens or similar design. Since the project continues to propose dry wells to handle runoff, has not provided impervious cover calculations, and has not requested the required special permit, It is not in compliance with the bylaw and should not be authorized. We would also note that a change in site design to provide compliance with the GPOD would necessitate a return to the Conservation Commission for authorization of the design change. The new plans prepared by J.C. Engineering and dated 12/20/24, which we believe are not intended to replace the Myers and Son plans for the project, show the new dwelling to be only 25.8 feet from Mashpee Pond, where the bylaw at section 174-33 requires a 50-foot setback. Although this is an improvement over the existing condition as a raise and replace, it should be considered a new dwelling. There is sufficient space on the lot to meet the requirement setback. There is still the issue of access and adequacy of Ned Bessie Road to support the required construction. Because of the extensive nature of the required vegetative clearing at the east end of the road, we believe that board should find that the area is actually part of the project. Of necessity, the abutters of that section of the road will be impacted by the clearing, which will change the character of the neighborhood. The roadway abutters are thus abutters to the project and should have had direct notice of the hearing. Absent this inclusion and notice, the applicant is deficient and requires either a continuance to provide notice to these abutters or a denial. Attached is a photograph of the portion of Ned Bessie Road servicing the subject site. The question is whether this vehicle track provides adequate access. As noted in our comments, October 4, 2024, the oversized flatbed truck delivering the prefabricated house sections will, considering the slope and unconstructed nature of the access, have extreme difficulty negotiating the existing conditions. It, together with the crane required to position the components, will cause a hazard for the access to properties beyond the subject site and will likely cause significant damage to the existing travelway. For all these reasons, it is our professional opinion that the project does not comply with relevant sections of the zoning bylaw, would be significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing dwelling, and should be denied the relief requested. Respectfully yours, A.M. Wilson Associates, Inc., signed Arlene M. Wilson, PWS, Principal Environmental Planner.
Additional letters, please?
Just make a comment after listening to that. The letter was referring to a plan dated December 20th. This plan is revised on January 3rd.
Okay, noted. So, no other letters, please?
Sundial Farms LLC, 26 Melissa Avenue, Mashpee, Mass., dated December 7th, 2025, I'm sure it's 2024, to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Dear Chairman and board members, I attended an earlier zoning hearing regarding a special permit filed by Peter Solanas to demolish and rebuild a dwelling formerly located at 4 Melissa Avenue, currently identified as 2 Ned Bessie Lane. I attended the meeting seeking clarification on Mr. Solanas' proposal. The meeting was continued on November 13, 2024, pending further review. On October 31st, 2024, I was made aware that the meeting would be canceled and to a future date as Mr. Solanas was submitting alternative plans. I anticipated notification and particulars for the next hearing on this matter, which did not come forth. Today, I learned a meeting was scheduled for January 8, 2025. I'm writing today because of short notice and prior commitments. I cannot attend as I would wish to. Although I respect Mr. Solanas' inherent property rights, I am hopeful this board is aware of relevant conditions and circumstances involved in this project prior to making a final determination. With all due respect to Attorney Corain's opinion, and assumes Salinas has certain rights to so-called Ned Best Lane under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 183, Section 58, stipulating the legal presumption of fee ownership of abutters to ways, parentheses, run of the center line of the way and carries with it the right to uses along the entire length. Brennan versus DaCosta, 24, Mass. Appellate Court, 968, 1987. This legal presumption is overcome when a legal way is imposed entirely within the boundaries of a parcel. In those cases, the abutters do not get extra land added to their center of the way, nor do they get the right to use the way absent a grant or right to do so, which is contrary to the Attorney Corain's viewpoint. The subject private way is laid out entirely on the Daniels, parentheses, Sundale Farms property. The subject way was created to control haphazard traffic by camp owners and their seasonal visitors. Further, the subdivision layout presented by Salinas indicates Jones Road as running under the subject way. That layout and deed references are inconsistent with the reality on the ground. In fact, Jones Road read 100 to the south of Sundial property. See attached recent land survey by D. O'Brien's Land Surveyor Incorporated, in the parentheses. Further, Melissa Ave ran around the entire campground, starting from Jones Road to the north and turning south along the lake. When Elmer Salinas purchased the property back in 1963, and for many years access to Salinas property was via Jones Road from the south. The legal property address at the time was 4 Melissa Ave. As the surrounding area developed and encroached ancient ways, development around Jones Road and the Melissa Avenue caused inconsistent access and egress. As a courtesy gesture, Salinas and the neighbors were at times allowed conditional seasonal access across Daniels, parentheses, Sundial Farms property. In time, according to Mr. Salinas, his address has changed to 2 Ned Bessie Lane for emergency services and safety reasons. Mr. Salinas is fully aware of his limitations for the use of this subject private way. In fact, he offered to purchase for a fee in so-called Ned Best Lane. He is also aware of inherent access to the subject lot is over Jones Road from the south, as evidenced from the plot plan originally submitted. See attached documents. It is common knowledge deed references the boundaries and the subjective and not necessarily reality on the ground. This is particularly apparent in the area of Mr. Salinas' application for a variance. Over times of the ancient ways, Jones Road and Melissa Avenue have been encroached upon and taken by the town. Street addresses and locations have been arbitrarily adjusted to meet overall development needs. As examples, over time, the Daniels, parentheses, Sundial Farms property on Melissa Ave has been identified as numbers 12-4-8 and 26. In fact, recently a home was built on Melissa Avenue across from Daniels. It was permitted as fronting on Melissa Ave. The front property line actually abuts Daniels, parentheses, Sundial Farms, who owns the land across from Melissa. See attached survey, see recent survey attached. Given the numerous existing non-conforming conditions related to Mr. Salinas' request for a special permit to build a new year-round dwelling in the place of his former seasonal home, we and others in the neighborhood ask that the board take into account our concerns regarding development in this sensitive area. We also understand the need for variations of current codes to comport with reasonable modifications thereof. However, in our view, Mr. Salinas is overreaching nearly every aspect of building code requirements. Our goal is not to obstruct his process, but to ensure that an equitable outcome which the bounds of his inherent rights as an owner of former front waterfront property campground lot. At a recent Conservation Commission hearing, the board considered concerns over damage to a important stormwater runoff drainage swale. The board approved his NOI application with conditions to include weekly inspection to determine whether the work damaged a very significant environmental component. Our lingering concern now is that we'll see if the damage has resulted is short-sighted. As one neighbor put it, the decision is akin to leaving a barn door open and checking in occasionally to see if a horse got away. Surely not too late. I bring this to your attention, not by way of criticism or complaint, but I hope that the zoning board is fully aware of the idiosyncrasies of Mr. Solanas' requests. We understand the importance of this decision-making process and the board and value added benefits to the community at large. However, after consultation with council, should Mr. Solanas persist with his plans without mitigation and his broad building expansion and erroneous claims to the right of Ned Best Lane, we have no other alternative than to bring this matter to the land court for litigation and hold responsible parties accountable. Finally, for the record, Tanya Daniels is manager of the Sundial Farms LLC's. Current owner is at 26 Melissa Ave, is noted by Attorney Corain. Also, Mr. Daniels maintains life estate privileges and caretaking responsibilities. Sincerely, Tanya Daniels, manager of Sundial Farms LLC, and William Daniels, caretaker.
Any other letters?
No, but there are some attachments to this letter as well.
The attachments are fine.
We'll add them.
Yeah, we've made reference to them in
Okay.
your notes, so that's fine. Any other letters, Mary Ann? Mary Ann, do you believe that your notification is correct? Yes. Of the abutters? Yes. Okay, I'm fine with that. All right.
There's some confusion over when they are mailed. They are mailed at the time of the public hearing notice that is published in the local paper. If there's continuances, they need to call me, and they are notified after each meeting if it's
And I
continued.
presume you start with a certified abutters list,
Yes,
and you have that?
yes.
Okay, that's fine with me. Board questions, please. I have several, but I'll wait.
Go ahead.
I go ahead. Okay. One first would be a statement, and that is, I understand that this proposal is in phase 2.
Yes,
If it weren't, I would be asking for an IA system, right? Just so you understand.
correct.
But the fact that it's in phase 2, I'm okay with that. In reference to the impervious material issue, or surface, under the groundwater protection district, I actually lost that argument. I tend to agree with the letter that it is impervious, but I think I went against an engineer, i.e. Mr. Pecci, at Echo Road, and lost that argument.
I think Mr. Walls consulted with Mr. Pesci on this question and gave the same answer.
So that being said, I don't have the education that Mr. Pecci has, nor do I have that stamp that says that I'm an engineer. So I have to go by Mr. Pecci, and he represents his board. So he has stated that driveway placement is in fact pervious.
Correct. And given that we are under the 2,500 square feet, we do not need any special permit.
I lose that argument. And I'm okay with that.
And I just want to clarify, I hate to do this, but I just want to say, I didn't bring this up for the first time or acknowledge this at this letter. We had this discussion at the last meeting.
Understood. Now, in reference to the fire chief, how do we manage, and this is a board question, do we do a deed restriction? Do we do something that says
Well, you
this
could-
this criteria has to be met in perpetuity?
Well, condition the permit.
This height and width of this driveway?
I've already
We
made a
make it a
note to condition it.
Condition the permit.
I've already made a note, if I
Okay,
read
I
the
mean, I
motion.
don't know if you want any more teeth in that, but if the board's fine with that, I'm fine with that.
And my client
Okay.
is absolutely fine with the condition of this permit that
I don't
those
know
things
how
have to be met.
I don't know how you condition it that he does it.
Forever.
I mean, yeah,
Well,
I'll condition that it
make
has
it a
to be
condition.
done,
I'm totally fine with that.
but I don't know.
Well, I think it behooves my client to make sure that there's proper fire access, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I would hope so, but, you know.
But anyways, my client is perfectly fine with what the fire department is suggesting.
And my next comment, roof drainage. I get a kick out of this. Roof gutters and downspouts shall be connected to the subsurface dry wells as located in this plan system shall comply with 174-27-2. I don't have any criteria, I don't have any design criteria that I can even look at. I'm okay with it, again, but in the future, please tell all applicants that they've got to put some drainage calculations on this, just to say that they could have made that note about everything on the plan. It's going to comply with zoning and just submit a blank plan. That's not the way to do it.
Right. Well, I mean, Brian is here if the board has a question about the calculations
So,
or the
What
storm
method did
events.
you use when you designed the system?
Yeah, so Brian Wallace, JC Engineering. So as far as what we show on the plans here, therefore, location of where the dry wells will go, we didn't perform detailed calculations for this.
did or didn't?
We did not for this particular plan. But that is something that would be ultimately prepared.
Well,
and
that's a
complied.
problem, right? Because you got an area, you've got a roof that's impervious, agreed?
Yes.
Let's not argue that one. And that being said, it's got to be in the ground because it can't leave the site.
Bigger problems.
That being said, I mean, again, I'm not going to hold up the approval. It's a dry well, but in the future, I'm going to start holding it up.
What I may suggest to this board, based on past precedents, is that if the board were to condition that the dry wells have to meet the 25-year storm event under what you've been looking for, then I think that's perfect.
And I'd like to see the calculations submitted. I'm not, and just submit it to the building inspector, he can share them with me or whatever. Not trying to hold this up, but I need to look at more than just
Am I conditioning that?
what that document says.
Understood.
Okay?
I got one, if you want to take a break.
Shoot.
All right, on the previous letter from A.M. Wilson Associates, on page 2, third paragraph, it says, "The new plans prepared by J.C. Engineering and dated 12/20/24, which we believe are not intended to replace the Meyer and Sons plans for the project, show the new dwelling to be only 25.8 feet from Mashpee Pond, where the bylaw, section 174-33, requires a 50-foot setback. Although this is an improvement over the existing condition, as a raise and replace, it should be considered a new dwelling. There is sufficient space on the lot to meet the required setback." Well, as we know, the building is closer than 50 feet, and it's pre-existing, non-conforming, so that paragraph is of no use.
Agreed. And with the caveat that I'd love to have had it in that little code, right, in the little block here showing existing and.
Right.
But it's not there.
No, understood.
And it's part of your actual request.
Yes, it is.
And so it would have made it so much easier to tie the two together.
Yep. But
But
again-
all you have to do is spend a couple of minutes and look.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're within the 50 feet. It's a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
I agree with
And we're making
Jonathan
it-
100%.
We're making it better. Does the board want me to address the Ned Bessie Road issue?
Yeah, we've got 6 typed pages of issues,
So,
and
you know,
honestly, my head's spinning.
I know. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a zoning issue. However, I have to correct the record. I think, I've submitted a letter to this board. I provided deeds, I provided plans. This contention that Ned Bessie Way, A, is within the boundaries of Mr. Daniels' property, and that Mr. Salinas has no rights over Ned Bessie Way is completely factually inaccurate and not reflected by the record, okay? In 1963, which you have this attachment, Mary Bessie, because all this land was Bessie land, and the children of the top Bessie all got parcels and they divided them up. We ran into this on Lakewood. That was a Bessie property. So anyways, in 1963, Mary Bessie subdivided her land, and she created Ned Bessie Road. And she created my client's lot, she created the Daniels lot, and she created 6 Ned Bessie, which is the adjacent. That road is shown right here. It is not within the layout of the boundaries of Mr. Daniels' property. So that's one. And then, shortly thereafter in 1963, Mary Bessie deeded my client's property to his father. who was Elmer Sillanius, 1963. And in that deed, it says, said premises are shown on parcel 3, and goes on, and it says, together with a right-of-way over the 40-foot way in Melissa Ave as shown on said plan in common with all others. So what that is saying is that when my client's father got this property, he received a right to pass and repass over Ned Bessie Road. And that is within the record. So to suggest that my client has no rights over Ned Bessie Road is completely and factually inaccurate. Now, and again, that gives him the right to repair, maintain, anything to do under the derelict fee statute, as we've talked about on several occasions. But it's just not accurate to suggest that this road is within in the boundaries of the
It would
property.
seem to me your statement is correct, and that is as follows. The gentleman to my left, meaning the zoning enforcement officer, is going to have to make sure that he's in agreement that this lot has appropriate frontage.
Correct, right.
I mean, this board would have to go legal and have to go town council and all the rest, and I think that's up to David as to how he's gonna manage the ability to have frontage on that lot.
I mean, it's a it really comes down to private property rights, but again, I mean, the record's clear. I mean, these are recorded at the registry of
I
deeds.
get it.
And
To
this-
me- So David,
To
what do
me,
you got?
it's as simple as saying, Jones Road has been abandoned as well as the campground. It has been abandoned, and the right-of-way is now Ned Bessie, Ned Bess, whatever you want to say. That's the way to get to these properties, and that's why the addresses say to Ned Bess.
And you're gonna be the one that will need to be
And the other
satisfied.
things are abandoned.
Again, it's shown on a subdivision plan that was approved by the planning board in 1963 and recorded at the registry.
They
of
have been
deeds.
abandoned, they can't be brought back.
Do you have anything else, David?
I do. You did clarify the building height, but I kind of could see that there could be a potential problem here, because the building height, the average original grade is 68.99, and the 50% story elevation is 68.90, which is 9/100ths of a foot difference. I mean, does that give you 51%? It says that the percentage of the basement below average is 51%. Does that give you a full percentage point?
It's certainly close, and ultimately, the foundation, when it is installed, is going to have to be certified on a plan, and that elevation on there. So
I would want a letter saying that, but it gives you no room for,
It's not just the foundation, the actual finished frame is gonna have to be certified.
Right.
yeah, well, the building height is no problem there, but the big
Yeah.
question is it three stories?
Yep.
That's the big issue here, and we're so close that it could be argued that you're still at 50%,
How do you want me to condition?
when you need to be below that. I think it's too close.
Do I need to note it?
Can we do better than that?
Do you need that part of a condition if in fact we do look at an approval here? Do you want to include that?
Well,
as a
I'd rather see that it's, not, we're talking minuscule amount of,
It seems to me, am I correct, that you are concerned to the degree where you'd rather not see it be that close?
right.
Period. So
To
we have
me,
a problem, gentlemen.
If we're at 50%, we're at 50%. We need to be better than that.
The zoning enforcement officer's got a problem here, and that is we are too close in reference to a third story. Am I correct in that statement, David?
I'm concerned about it. I think I need to be assured that this is not going to come at 50%.
We're gonna manage this, gentlemen, because at this point, if he's concerned, this board is also concerned.
Well, I'm not sure how you would manage it other than to say, at the foundation inspection, to give David, the final it's not an elevation certificate, I don't know if it is, maybe it is. Like, when we're close on height, David requires an elevation certificate. So maybe perhaps before
I think before the house is delivered, we need to have that.
I don't know, I don't know what the
That-
construction
Before
process
there's
is.
any
better
wood
to
on the
me,
job,
so-
how's that, David? Right at,
Yeah.
before any wood's
Yeah,
on that job,
I
you gotta get the
I can deal with
certification.
that, and I would
If there's a-
rather see
Can you
it
put
better
that in
than
Do you want
a
us,
round up to 51%, but at least 51%.
and-
You know what I mean?
Isn't the plan-
We're very close.
That
It-
is the
it-
actual.
Yeah, but what they
And, you know,
built.
50%,
We're signing off.
0.5, 50,
Doesn't
you know,
matter.
50% is 50%. It's, you know, the number,
is,
it's
is what it is.
.50. It doesn't, you know, that's .501 is not much, is no difference.
David, do you want it in a motion?
I want, yeah, I would want it
do you
to
want a height
approve
certification done on the foundation?
on the
or ridge?
foundation, on the foundation,
Prior to any.
prior
being
to
delivered to
the
job.
house being
Wouldn't you want-
delivered.
Wouldn't you want the ridge done also, so they build it
No,
according to the
well,
plan?
no, this, no, the ridge is only 29
Because
feet.
of the
There's
third
no,
story.
there's no discrepancy with
You
that.
are doing the lot coverage, I mean,
The story above
average
grade, this is,
50%, okay. so-
if it's at 50%, that makes it a third story.
That's got,
Let me
All right.
let me ask this.
Let me say one thing first.
Yeah.
Won't this plan have to match what's actually being done? So the plan has to change?
I don't
Because
think
he's
so.
signing off on the plan.
I don't think so.
It's gonna
We're-
match the actual.
Again, we're on
think so.
we're on a very small
I think we're.
room
fine.
for error.
I think
You know,
we're
I
fine
mean,
as long as Scott includes that.
Yeah,
I
so,
think we're a very small room for error, John.
I
You
think
know
the
what I mean? They
issue's
could
been
probably,
settled.
okay.
even if they went down another 6
should not
inches
be an
on the
issue for you to
bottom of
do.
the floor, it could bring it down. But I want it to be a full percentage point, not a part of a percentage point.
So you understand that. He wants it a full percentage, not a fraction there too.
Yeah, understood completely.
Okay.
Yep.
So you want the, when they submit their certified foundation plan, you want it noted what the top of foundation is?
Exactly what it is and what percentage.
What the average grade is, so that he can figure out that it's not a
I
third
mean,
story.
50% can be argued. You know, if it comes out to point,
Right, we have the existing average grade. The question is going to be,
it's got to be better than 50%.
do we meet the 50%?
And he doesn't want it fractioned.
If I may add, it is,
put that in there?
that is not a roundup to 51%, it is 51.0%
Just make it right.
is what the,
So you're saying, so.
It is
all
one
right,
full percent,
I need
yeah.
that verified.
All right, so let's keep a
before-
point. So you're all
before
set
the
with
house is
that?
being-
Yes,
All right, Scott, you're all set with that? All right, good.
If it
Let's
isn't,
keep
you'll let
moving.
me know.
okay.
Okay. David, you have anything else?
No.
Board questions, because I know I was,
Go through these bullet points of,
we certainly can. if you-
well, there's 6 pages of typed arguments that we haven't talked about, or that,
Well,
Is that
we're
from-
also referencing an old plan. I don't know if some of these
okay,
things
it
have
should
been-
be one by one.
You're a member.
hear
If
a
you want us to
response.
do that, we certainly can do that.
Well, I tried to respond to that in my letter.
Well, so let's take, we have the letter, which is dated December 7th, 2025. That's what you're talking about, right?
You talking this one or that one? There's 2 of them.
We really,
I don't know
we
which
do
letter.
both, right?
Yeah, 6 pages.
I don't know what letter that is referencing.
So I have in my hand right now, I have a letter from Wilson Associates,
Which
which
was-
has top points,
Which was dated today?
which is dated today, and then I have one dated December 7th from Sundial Farms LLC,
Oh, I feel
all
like
of which
we've-
are making statements / comments.
But I feel like we've addressed those issues, because like the.
Well, I have a board member that's not sure that that's correct, and so if he's raising that issue, we need to deal with it,
All right,
period.
sure.
So, that being said,
You can go paragraph by paragraph. And
Let's
just
take-
explain your point.
let's take January 8th. Do you have January 8th letter in front of you?
I do.
From A.M. Wilson Associates. The first would be the groundwater protection district issue and the impervious soil.
Right here.
I believe we've addressed that one. I'll tell you how.
January 8th.
Sure, okay, this is all I want to hear.
Yeah, so,
If it's
when
been
we were
addressed.
doing Echo Road, there was a lot that Mr. Pecci did peer review, and it was in the groundwater protection district. I questioned if the driveway was considered impervious, because it's my opinion, you cannot drive on a pervious driveway because you're gonna get stuck. It's like driving on the beach. He stated to me, in this board, I believe, that no, it is in fact impervious, And so, pervious, sorry, pervious. And so the fact that it's pervious would not put this application into a criteria of non-compliance for the groundwater protection zone.
Then I would need a special permit from this
Right.
board.
Okay.
So Mr. Pecci, who has more intelligence in that aspect than I do, trumped me.
Fine. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, next one. Yeah.
Then there's,
50-foot setback, right? Is that not the next one?
yep, I feel,
So the statement is, the new plans prepared by J.C. Engineering dated 12/20/24, which we believe are not intended to replace the Meyer and Sons plans, show the new dwelling at 25.8, and there's a requirement of 50 feet. It's a new
I
house.
already went through that one, so let's
Exactly.
go to the next.
All right. Still issue in reference to Ned Bessie's support, road in support of the required construction. Because of the extensive nature of required vegetated clearing on the east side of the road, we believe the board should find that the area is actually part of the project. Of necessity, the butters to that section of road will be impacted by the clearing, and will change the character of the neighborhood.
well, I've never had tree trimming be part of needing a butter notices. I think Mary Ann, we did the butters notice based on the special permit criteria, which is a butters to a butters within 300 feet. There's, the fact that there's tree trimming, that doesn't need a permit. So if anybody went out to cut limbs, they wouldn't need to notify all their abutters.
Well, if you're arguing that is access, and if you're arguing they own the right of passage on that,
Yeah.
then it is my opinion that they would have the right to cut trees on it.
Correct. But they don't need a special permit for this board to do that.
Would be my
You
opinion.
satisfied then?
I am satisfied with that, other than, I think it's gonna get kicked a little bit to David in that they're gonna have to prove to David that they have adequate frontage and that Bessie is in fact a approved frontage criteria. That's between you and David.
Well, I mean,
And
it's
I
a
presume it
non-
is, but
it's-
I'm
I mean,
not-
it's a non, I mean, it only has 75 feet, it's non-conforming.
Let's go to the next
I
one.
understand, I'm just not making that decision.
Sure.
Attached to the photograph of the portion of Ned Bessie servicing the subject site. Question is whether the vehicle track provides adequate access, as noted in our comments. And so they're talking about whether it's adequate, Ned Bessie is adequate access for trucks, et cetera, et cetera. That is the next one. Flatbed truck delivering the prefabricated house. Will it be adequate for that delivery?
So the builder's on the line, and you can ask him, I don't think it's a zoning issue. And,
I don't think. Certainly not a zoning issue.
and quite frankly, I don't know why Mr. Daniels cares, because he doesn't use Ned Bessie Road. His access is from Melissa.
Oh, well, I don't even know if we want to
I
do that
agree,
yet.
it's not
I don't know if we
it's
wanna
not a
do that.
zoning issue.
It's not a zone?
I don't
No,
think
but
it's
if I-
relevant at all.
No.
All right.
Go to the next one.
All right. For all these reasons, the project, so here's the three topic points. The project does not comply with relevant sections of the zoning bylaw. Well, that's why he's here, right? Would be sufficiently more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing dwelling. We have to find that it isn't, of course. And should be denied because of that, because of the relief requested. That's that letter.
So,
Okay.
if I may, to the substantially more detrimental, I think I've laid out the facts in this case.
No, you did.
We have a house that's getting smaller, lot coverage is going down. We have a side yard, two side yard nonconformities, we have a rear yard side yard nonconformity. All of those are being eliminated, and we're all gonna be conforming. We have a 50-foot setback to wetlands that is being improved. We have a building code compliant house. So for all those reasons, and we have stormwater management. So for all those reasons, this project is better than what exists. It cannot be said to be substantially more detrimental.
Okay, next letter. Which
Can
is
I
the-
ask a question? Here's a photograph here for access of construction vehicles.
Yep.
Is that all property that's controlled by your client?
No, that's Ned Bessie Road.
I know it's Ned Bessie Road on one side, but on the near side where there's a little bench, I mean, it looks like there's plenty of access, is my point.
Yeah. No, there's house lots on either side of Ned Bessie. My client doesn't control the private property on either
Right,
side.
I know, but on this side of Ned Bessie Road where the bench is that his, can you see the,
No, because he's down by the water.
okay.
So his lot fronts on the water. This is just the access down to his lot.
Okay.
Okay, so next letter, December 7th, 2025, from Sundial Farms. I don't see anything in the first paragraph other than
want that one
statements.
too, Chris?
There's no question.
That one I do have in front of me. Thank you.
I see the second paragraph, which questions Ned Bessie's Lane's use under Chapter 183, Section 58, stipulating the legal presumption of fee ownership of abutters to ways run to the center line of the way and carries with it the right to use the way along its entire length. So he's questioning your right of the use of Bessie Way.
Correct. He's citing the derelict fee statute, 18358. As I pointed out, we have a subdivision plan that lays out Ned Bessie. But more importantly, my client's father has a deed that gives him the rights over the 40-foot right-of-way.
I will say the following, I don't believe it's this board's purview to make that decision. I think you need to prove to that gentleman right there that you have access before he issues a permit, but that's up to him.
Right.
This board to make a decision whether Ned Bessie Way Road is used by you, you have rights in it or not in it, I think is problematic.
I agree.
Because frankly, I'm not going there.
No,
I agree.
no.
If anyone else wants to, I mean, I know a little bit about this, I've done it many a time, but I gotta tell you, I'm not an attorney.
Not a zoning issue. I think it's a,
And it's my opinion, at looking at this and looking at the two deeds he had, it's my opinion that he owns the center line or has rights to passage of Ned Bessie Way. That's my opinion.
I agree.
That is my guess. Okay. Again, so that's Ned Bessie O'Brien. Again, it's questioning, legal problem. Wow, this is a tough one.
Yeah, it's more of the same about the road.
Yeah, it's really about the road, but he's questioning because the deed and a abutter owns the property and someone else owns it. I don't know. Again, in the third paragraph is emergency reasons, emergency access. Again, it's Ned Bessie Lane. And then the next paragraph is common knowledge, the deed references and boundaries are subject to a not necessary reality on the ground. So then, again, Ned Bessie Lane. And then it gets down to lot questions in reference to permitting in fronting of Melissa Ave. The front property line actually abuts Daniel Sundial Farm, who owns the land across from Melissa. I mean, you could hire it's not my thing here.
Right. And so, so the next substantive paragraph deals with, the numerous existing nonconformity conditions. There are existing ones, and we're correcting them.
Well, and also the next one is, there's another one. So at this recent Conservation Commission hearing, the board considered concerns over damage to an important stormwater runoff drainage swale. The board approved his NOI, which is very important to this board. So that says the Conservation Commission approved the notice of intent, which means they issued an order of conditions, which means they approved this job.
Correct.
Okay, so that being said, he says, the board approved his NOI application with the conditions that include a weekly inspection to determine whether the work damage that was a significant component, environmental component. That's up to conservation and you. It has nothing to do with this board, because that's why they conditioned it. Our lingering concern now is that we'll see if any damage resulted in short-sighted, as one of our neighbors put it, that decision is akin to leaving the barn door open. Well, conservation then left the barn door open. That's their opinion, that's his
conservation
opinion.
issue.
Nothing to do with us. That's that paragraph. We understand the importance of the decision-making process of the board and value-added benefits, however, this broad building expansion, erroneous claims of right to Ned Bessie. That's it. I see no more.
We addressed all the issues,
I concur 100%.
which was the reason why I brought it up.
As you
Because there's
should
a
have.
lot of people here
Yeah, as you should
who
have.
want answers to this.
I agree with you 100%, and we did exactly that, I believe. We did exactly that. So that being said, I'm now going to go out to the audience. Anyone in the audience? Yes. Anyone in the audience have anything to say about this application? If you could keep it to 3 minutes, because it could be lengthy, but your
I'll try to
name
do it.
and your involvement, please.
My name is Barbara Bessie Nichols, 23 Melissa Avenue. I'm a butter. And I read the November 7th letter, and there are several...
Could you speak into the mic, please? Thank you, Mike.
Is it on? Is that better? There are several things on it that are not facts. I mean, I've had 84 years here in Mashpee, and Jones and Melissa are my great-grandparents. So the access to these 80 acres that belonged to my family at one point, cow paths in different places or to my father's potato.
So do you believe that Ned Bessie Road does give access to this property or doesn't?
It definitely does.
Thank you.
There's-
Please continue.
And if you have any other questions about it, but like Jones Road stops at Melissa. The Mashpee did not encroach on my roads. I gave an easement to the town for the paving and so forth, what things that were done. The lots couldn't have been sold without access. The 3 lots, so that should be a 40-foot right-of-way down there.
Great.
Yeah, that's all settled. That's not a
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
I think we tend to concur, but again, that's going to be between the applicant and the zoning enforcement officer in the future.
So I didn't know if anybody had any other questions that
No, I think that was
could
very
answer.
important input for this board, and I thank you very, very much for it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And it's nice to have a resident of that length of time. It's great to have
Well, it
met you.
goes back beyond that, because Jones and Melissa were named after my
My
great.
God.
Ned Bessie's my uncle, so.
Well, nice meeting you. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the audience, please? Yes, ma'am. Please give your name and your involvement in the project, please.
3 minutes. Mrs. Wilson, I think.
Good evening. Arlene Wilson, A.M. Wilson Associates. I represent the Daniels. And I'm not going to go through my letter again. I appreciate the fact that you had to try and struggle through to read it, and that you've gone through it point to point. But to respond to some of the comments that were made, first of all, I know Ed Petchy. He's a good engineer. I don't know the project that you're referring to, but I do know that it's possible to construct gravel roads in a way that keeps them pervious. I don't believe that kind of construction has gone on here, particularly since this driveway already exists. And it's a chore to construct a driveway so that it continues to drain. It is my professional opinion that this particular driveway is now and will be in the future impermeable and should have its area included to see whether the project meets the requirements of the groundwater
I
overlay.
understand your point, and I take it, and
Just a rough calculation, it's more than 1,300 square feet, and with the building coverage, would trip 2,500
but you
square
do
feet.
agree that the driveway could be constructed where the driveway would become pervious.
I'm not sure I do, because a great deal of the driveway actually runs over the septic system leaching field. So
Anyway.
that adds a complication.
I guess at this point in time, it's an area that we need, it's not a settled area, but I think it's settled from this board standpoint. I've brought it up to Mr. Pesci. I actually had a conversation with Mr. Pesci personally in reference to another site. So I'm okay with this.
Okay. The tree, what's characterized as tree trimming at the east end of the road, I think it's really going to be significantly more than that. In order to get these trucks down, there's going to be tree removal.
Well,
So
I think that the
it's-
applicant may have a right to do so, but I don't think it's his board's position to argue whether he can or cannot.
I agree.
He probably has a right to make the road passable. The question is whether the requirements for making the road passable are so significant that that work becomes part of this project, and people should have gotten notice. So that's my point.
Understood?
There was comment about Mr. Daniels not using Ned Bessie Road in this area. In fact, Mr. Daniels owns, or the trust controls, the piece of property to the north immediately to the north and on the pond from 2 Bessie Road. That's where his pier is located. So in fact, he does use part
Again,
of
that wouldn't be within our jurisdiction
Okay.
technically.
Just rebuttal to that comment. And finally, relative to the Conservation Commission approval, if this plan is actually a replacement for the original plan that was filed with you by Myers and Sons, and consequently a different plan than the Conservation Commission approved,
Ma'am,
then-
we're gonna either approve or disapprove that plan.
That plan,
And in the
okay.
motion, historically, it states, any changes to that plan needs to come back to this board.
Okay, so then that plan is not the plan that the Conservation
That's the
Commission
applicant's
approved.
problem. We're looking at that plan.
Okay.
That's the plan we're gonna make a decision on.
That's
And in that
fine.
motion, it'll state what I just said.
If you
And
have a
so if
problem-
that's the wrong plan, the applicant's got a problem.
Okay.
Now, there
so-
might be an additional plan that they submitted to conservation and obtained an approval from a conservation standpoint that has no jurisdiction with us. That happens quite commonly.
So what I'm saying is that if you're relying on the memo from the conservation agent that the plan was approved by Concom, you shouldn't do that because this plan has not been approved by Concom.
We understand that, and we understand how that works. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Anyone else in the audience?
3 minutes.
Okay. I see no one. Good. Any other board questions?
You gotta close public.
Like to close the public hearing? Like to get a motion?
I'll make a motion to close it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to get a motion in reference to the application, please. Scott, are you all set with the motion?
I believe I am.
Okay.
No, but you can clarify me if I'm wrong. I'd like to make a motion to approve 2 Ned Bessie Road, owner Peter W. Salinas, trustee of the Salinas Realty Trust, request a special permit under Section 174-17.1 and Section 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing, non-conforming single-family dwelling and replace it with a new single-family dwelling on property located in R5 zoning district, map 21, parcel 2, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. 1, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a special permit under Mass General Law 40A, Section 9. Proposed site plan, 2 Ned Bessie Road, Mashpee, Mass, prepared for Peter Salinas, seal, 1 inch equals 10 feet, date December 20th, 2024, prepared by J.C. Engineering, sheet 1 of 2, sheet 2, front, right, rear, and left elevations, view revised January 3rd, 2025, stamped and signed by John L. Churchill, number 48066, professional land surveyor. 3, condition on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Board of Health and Conservation Department comments, noting the request of the fire department with regards to the road clearance. Any change, number 4, any change to the plans will require the applicant to return to this board. Number 5, condition that the applicant seek and obtain the building department review in reference to the tree bylaws, chapter 175 of the town bylaw prior to the application of this building permit. 6, the board finds under section 174-17.1 and section 174-33 that proposed project is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing condition prior to the removal of the existing structure, and that there is adequate land area on the subject lot to provide sufficient parking, and there are no nonconformities being created. 7, condition that a top of foundation elevation in average grade be submitted to the building department at the time of the certified foundation plan.
Prior to any lumber being delivered on site?
Well, he can't, with a certified foundation plan, he can't
I got you.
build without it.
Could you read back to me, please, what you said in reference to the driveway? The fire department?
In the condition of the town department records, I noted the request of the fire department with regards to the road clearance, clearing the,
And that's on the record, because we read that in.
we read in the fire department's
All
letter.
right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Very good.
You're up next.
Yes.
All right. One down.
Yeah. I might have to leave early, dog home alone, and
Well, hopefully we move through these other ones.
well, I don't think the next one's gonna go slow.
Well, if they're all the same, Mike, we'll be out of here by 11.
Hey. We're
No,
gonna try to speed it up.
no, I gotta work tomorrow. Me too. Okay.
Who said me too? You're working right now. Jeez, listen to him, he says he's gotta work tomorrow.
There you go.
Oh, my God.
All the papers passed back?
Yes, sir.
Our plans, et
Yes,
cetera?
sir.
Coming back.
There you go.
More plans. Less signed copies.
Oh, this is another long one.
Approval. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
We only have 6 more.
Bob, would you like to read 17 Monomoskoye Road West into the record, please?
17 Monomscoy Road West, owners Maria D. and Elena C. St. John, trustees of Maria St. John Trust, request a special permit under 174-17.1 and 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming single-family residential structure and replace it with a new single-family residential structure on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 114, parcel 20, Mashpee, Mass, continued from 12/11/24 hearing.
So 5 regular members sitting. Counselor?
Good evening. Again, for the record, Attorney Christopher Corain, representing the St. John's. With me tonight is Elena St. John, one of the owners of the property, as well as Mike Borselli of Falmouth Engineering, who's the engineer for the project. So last time we were here, we reviewed this project. Again, it's a raise and replace under 174-17-1 and 174-33. It's a project that's wholly within the flood zone. It's going to be flood zone compliant, building code compliant. It's been approved by the Conservation Commission. But really what the biggest thing, my feeling from leaving that was that the board was, looked positively on the project, but had a concern based on the fire department memo about access. So there was no further comment from the fire department at the meeting. This board asked us to reach out to the fire department to make sure that we can get a positive comment regarding, the access for emergency vehicles. So, shortly after that meeting, we had an on-site with the fire chief, with David, with Mike Borselli, myself, and the owner. And it was determined at that time based on the bylaw, which basically says that you take the furthest point of any structure from the access, and you measure 150 feet. And if at that 150 feet point, you have your 16 feet, then you comply with the bylaw. So what David asked us is to show this 150 feet, to show that. We walked it off on the site and shown it here, that we believe that there was compliance there. I believe that David, is satisfied. I believe the chief is satisfied, and I think we've addressed that issue.
Okay. Do we want to read letters any new letters into the record, or should we read them all over again?
Fire department's gonna do it, right?
Say again?
I think
Fire
the fire
department has
Yeah.
a new one.
Well, why don't we read the fire departments for sure, and who would like to read the fire departments?
Wait a minute.
I have it here, do you have it?
Where is
I
it?
got it.
Okay, George?
To 17 Monomoskoye Road West, Fire Department comment. J. Pelletier, dated 12/19/2024, to Marianne Romano. Copy David Morris. Good morning, Marianne. I met with the building commissioner, the owner, her engineer, and the lawyer to address the mentioned above. We walked through the area to address the fire department's needs. After the meeting, I believe that all the issues were resolved, and a new plan will be submitted reflecting these changes. Thank you, Joseph Pelletier, Acting Fire Chief.
Do we have any new letters, any additional?
I got one.
Great.
It's Wednesday, today. 3:14 PM. It's from David Morris to Christopher Corain. Hi, Chris. For 17 Monomoskoye, the chief does mention in the letter regarding that he understands that there will be changes made in the plan to illustrate to the board compliance to 174-32. His and my concerns were satisfied at the site visit. Not a perfect scenario, but enough. Thank you, David Morris, Building Commissioner.
So does that letter state that there's gonna be additional plan changes?
No.
No, that's, I think you just,
They wanted to demonstrate the 150,
Okay.
just what he pointed out.
right.
And that was
one he just
discussed,
handed
and
out.
we were
Any
all
other
set.
new letters?
Yeah, I got one here from
You got a lot of them.
Christopher Corain, dated 12/30/24, and it's to Mary Ann. Carbon copy to David. Hi, Mary Ann. Attached are the revised existing and proposed conditions plans for 17 Monomoskoye Road West. These plans are updated to show the 150-foot distance from the furthest corner of the new structure to show compliance with the bylaw. I have copied David and Chief Pelletier on this email so that they both have the opportunity to review the revised plans. If I've missed anything, or if there are any further concerns, please let me know. Thank you, Chris.
Any other new letters?
so the butter letter from December 30th, 2024. Michael Ciampi, if I'm pronouncing that right. 9 Pine Ridge Road, Mashpee, Mass. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Mashpee. Reference 17 Monomoskoye West Road and 20. I'm a butter on 2 sides of this project. I met with Chief Fallon on December 4th to discuss access and protection of my property at the intersection of the Pine Ridge and Monomoskoye West. He said having only 15 feet to turn a 90-degree angle would make it impossible for a fire truck to turn, but I could protect my corner because I own it. We discussed whether the applicant could cut 50 feet of road or 10 trees and enter from the other side of Monomoskoye West, and would be a straight shot for the ladder truck and a closer to a hydrant. Since his retirement, the applicant had a meeting with town officials and others on December 18th, and is now approved to remain the same with no changes. They are parked in the road and in my driveway because nobody knows what to do with this intersection, including UPS, FedEx, the mailman, and sometimes forklifts drive up Pine Ridge Road for lumber deliveries because their trucks can't get up the road. Tree branches get ripped off, and I am constantly raking them nuts from vehicle damage. This is quite a public safety issue. I invite the members of the board to visit the site and tell me if a 10-wheel dump truck, concrete trucks, lumber broom trucks, etc., can make it around a corner 15 feet wide. They can't. At the last BOA meeting, a question came up as to the leach field, and it is a structure. An answer from the Secretary of State is yes, it is. It is the same as the building on Earth House and covering it with mulch. They are both structures in Massachusetts, which makes another valid point to this project. This project should be denied, and nobody is addressing the new tree preservation law. I also disagree with the new structure being detrimental to the neighborhood. Just look at the 2 front elevations and a private septic pipe across the road with no easement and only having a deed for 10 feet or 25 feet road for the use, not to the center line. My last thought is if a dozen subcontractors show up on a given day, where are they going to park and how are these trucks going to make the turn? And is the town council going to changed about 100 deeds of us people that have rights on these roads. What makes this project so special to break all the rules, you get a free land, and you get free land just because they need additional square footage of land they don't own to enlarge a 2-bedroom house to a 5-bedroom. Sincerely, Michael Campy, and there's some attachments on this.
Did the letter make reference to the attachments? I didn't hear that, so you may want to just state what those attachments are.
Sure.
You don't have to specifically read them, but what are the attachments?
So the first one is a statement that, yes, the leach field is a structure in Massachusetts. It's referencing
Understood?
a quote, okay? Second one is a picture of the house.
Existing house.
Just the house, what's that?
That's the existing house.
Correct, with what's up
With the
underneath.
From the
proposed,
assessors or something?
Proposed underneath
Yeah,
it.
from the assessors, okay.
Says not detrimental, below, question mark. Last one is, the lot, Nine Ridge Road, 20 Montessori Road is, west is written on here, proposed plantings into center line of the road at 9 Pine Ridge Road. Would any abutters have a problem with it? So it's just a picture of what the depiction of what the road looks like.
well, it's saying the plantings are gonna be in the road.
Again, that would not be our purview, that would not be our jurisdiction, right?
That's it.
Any other letters? Okay,
Okay.
board questions?
Yeah, is a septic system a structure?
No. We went over this last time.
Yeah, I think it is.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I think it is a structure, for the lack of a better term, what to call it, because it contains fluids and different things. But we, as what we consider structure on the property, we wouldn't count it as lot coverage.
Right. And you got to look at what your bylaw says. So I don't know what the state says. I don't necessarily care what the state says. You know, look at your bylaw, what a structure is. And a structure is a combination of materials assembled to give support or shelter, such as a building, tower framework, platform, bin,
It's our
sign.
definition of a structure.
Okay.
I don't see anything that would
Doesn't
suggest.
the septic system shelter the septic fluids?
Well, I wouldn't call it shelter.
No, I would
No,
not.
it's a
What does
containment.
it do?
It's a containment. It's no
More
different
of
than
a
if you
support.
put a,
No, it's not for-
a submerged
I think when
propane
they're
tank.
talking about shelter, they're talking about somebody that, a person, like a house or a garage.
Supports a
Okay,
structure.
well, wait a minute. It's a concrete structure, same as a foundation for a house.
Well, a foundation in and of itself isn't a structure. The house is the structure.
I'm not sure I agree with you.
Well, what does the state law say, and do we have to go by what the state law says?
No, we have to follow our bylaw, I believe.
The state law,
Our definition of a structure.
the state law doesn't say anything. That's, I don't know where that comes from or who made that
It's a
comment.
loose term, structure.
Oh. It's just a-
It-
Kind of a loose term.
Again, I think I agree with Scott, for zoning purposes, we can't call that a structure. It's like, we'd have to count it towards lot coverage, we'd have to count a driveway towards lot coverage, we'd have to count everything. And it wouldn't work in most of these scenarios, so I think for zoning, we would consider this a structure. It's.
But I'm looking at this as zoning.
I'm someone who has taught many classes in internet research. This is the top hit of a Google search. It is not a reliable source.
Exactly. Thank you. I said the same thing about this one. It's a Google search. It's someone's opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I'm an expert since I've taught many
I'd like to hear from
courses
Mr. Borselli
on
at the end of
internet
that Google
research.
search.
Well, anyone else from the audience, and we'll go to Mr. Purcelli. Anybody else, I mean, from the board?
Nope.
All right,
Made
Mr.
my point.
Purcelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. With regard to the term structure and how, the definition, if you look up structure in Merriam-Webster dictionary, you're going to get all kinds of broad terms, anything that's has made out of some sort of material that can support whatever. But for the purposes of structure, as it relates to your zoning bylaw and Title V, by the way, it's not a structure. Title V, which is the state sanitary code, and your local health regulations recognize that structures such as septic tanks and leaching fields can be set back 10 feet from a property line. It's pure and simple. They're not structures as your zoning bylaw defines them. When you're contemplating other reasons for setbacks that might affect abutters because of visual character, aesthetics, or whatever, these are under the ground, and it's recognized they can be as close, but not closer than 10 feet to a property line.
Thank you. Board,
You could buy a fire pit. That's a structure, but it's not part of zoning. You can put it in your
understood.
backyard.
I understand completely. Anyone else in the board have any questions or concerns?
No.
David?
Well, I can address the tree bylaw comment in that it is being addressed with the conservation order of conditions. So that makes this exempt from the, they do fill out an exemption form for that. The other thing is just like the first hearing we had tonight, is that construction logistics, what they have to do is not part of this board's problem. That's the applicant's burden. And again, I do agree with that the owner on the corner, Mr. Champion, I did have a conversation with him, just like Chief Phelan did before. If he wants to put a boulder or something on the corner of his lot, he has every right to do so.
So I guess we're still at board questions. The cone that, I went out to the property. There's a cone in the middle of the street. Were you out there? Did you see the cone?
I didn't see the cone. I saw the property lines marked out, and I accepted them as.
Well, when we go to the audience
And
now,
I've
right, yeah,
missed
I'll ask him that question, because I just want to know where this boulder would go. Would that then create a scenario where there isn't adequate fire access if he put the boulder?
Well, we discussed that I did discuss that with Chief Peltier, and
And he's
basically,
okay that
if they have to get there, they'll get there.
So if he put a boulder where he plans on putting the boulder, it's not going to impinge the fire department to the degree where they can't get into the property.
That's what we
not
come
gonna drive
up
across
with.
private
I mean, my driveways,
But I'm
my
saying Maybe
driveways,
that boulder's going to be in the middle of the access that the fire department expects
my
it to have.
driveway's 10 feet wide. This is supposed to be 25 feet wide. I mean, and then there's the ownership is 10 feet, and then there's a 5-foot strip. I mean, there's a lot going on here that it really is not, it's not up to us.
As long as we can, as long as the fire department is okay with it.
Yeah, I mean,
My point. I didn't like what I saw.
no, it's
Department,
total neglect
he
of a
says
right
it's
of way.
okay, I can't
But-
argue with the chief.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know enough.
the right of way, like I said, it's not a great scenario. It's not a perfect scenario.
Not at all.
But it's total neglect for 60 years of a right of way
Right.
by everyone to, you can't correct that. That's the way they've been going into their property for 60 years. I think, why are we to change that on private property?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
To get a final inspection, occupancy permit, one of the inspections is the fire department. Comes and does their final inspection. I would assume if they're concerned about access, Lieutenant Goldman is gonna look
Yeah,
at that.
there will be-
When-
yeah, there
he's
will
gonna
be a
look at that
second
when he does
chance
his
on that,
final and
yeah.
say, we can't get a fire truck in there, we got an issue.
I just want to make sure that I'm hearing this boulder, a boulder wall, and I just don't want to see a boulder wall after an inspection somewhere down the road.
It's on his private property, and they looked at it as turning on the
No, but
on
I'm
the
just saying,
public.
so here's a road,
Yeah.
and a butter says, I own to the middle of that road, I'm gonna put a boulder right in the middle of that road.
I don't
And
think they
everybody
can-
does their
I don't think they
inspection.
can put it
They're
in the
not
middle of the
talking,
road.
no, they're not
They
talking
can't
the
do
middle
that.
of the road.
That's the point
They're
I'm.
talking the corner of his
You can put it on
property
his
line.
property, not the,
Oh, well, yeah, but his property line, I was out there and I see,
that's a
it's
different
awful
case.
hard to comprehend. I see lines, I see strings, I see cones, I see a
that
lot
boulder's
of
gonna
things.
be if you put a boulder in the middle of the road, it's gonna be a problem for anybody getting down the road.
Correct.
I understand that.
Hits it, it's on,
You have to understand, it's a gravel road,
I get that.
and half of the gravel goes on his property.
And so if he put a boulder in the middle of his property, maybe putting a boulder in the middle of the access
Well, maybe
for the fire
Well,
truck.
maybe the road needs to be addressed.
I don't know, that's the
Well,
way I
that's
say it.
Look at the piece of property at the beginning of Little Neck Bay.
fire department has
With the
made
fire
their
hydrants, because they put the road in the wrong place.
You disagree
Well,
with the
let's-
fire department, disagree with them.
Let's keep moving. So,
And the
let's go out, what I'd like to do is go out, we've just read the letters from everyone, right? So let's go out to, David, you're all set. Audience input,
Like
please.
little green bennies.
Audience input, anyone in the audience have anything to say about this application? Okay. I'm gonna go back to board questions one more time.
Nope.
Anybody have any issues,
Do you
concerns?
have any?
No.
Nope.
If the fire department is fine, I'm fine.
Yep, same here.
For me, you're
What
asking
about the
questions.
setbacks?
So I'm on the fence in reference to, not more detrimental to the neighborhood.
That I can see.
You know what, I'm right on the edge. So, take me over the top there, Counselor.
Well,
because
I'll
I'm
give you.
on the edge, I gotta tell you.
I'll give you a few reasons why it's not substantially more detrimental. Well, one, we're going from your conventional Title V to an IA system, which is always a positive, especially in a flood zone. We are going.
Dear to my heart.
Yep. We are going to have a building code compliant house where the existing house is not building code compliant. And importantly, we're going to have a flood zone compliant house where you do not have a flood zone compliant house. So that is obviously a positive. If you deny the project, we have a house that's not going to be flood zone compliant. And obviously, we're in a sensitive, area, Mashpee, and we're always concerned about flood zones.
Is it being moved further away from the water?
The house is, I believe, slightly being moved further away from the water. Slightly, it's not a ton. There is significant mitigation that's being proposed as part of this project, and it's been approved by the Conservation Commission. So I think with all those things,
Okay, you said it's going to become flood zone compliant.
correct.
What do you mean by that?
I'll defer to Mike.
Yeah, I can answer that. So the existing house, so the house is in a flood zone.
Right.
And there's requirements for construction in flood zones. The existing house predates those construction requirements because it was built before those requirements existed. When this new house is constructed, it's going to conform to all of the requirements by FEMA for construction in flood zones. The first floor is going to be elevated above the flood zone.
Okay.
It's going to have flood vents. It's going to be substantially more resilient to storm flooding than the existing house. The existing house is not conforming at all to building code requirements for construction in a flood zone.
And I
So
think
would
all your
you argue,
mechanicals
Mr.
are above the
Vasselli,
flood zone.
Would you say that because it's gonna be flood zone compliant, then we're probably increasing flood storage?
I would definitely say that, because it's going to be retrofitted with flood vents, so water can flow freely into the lower level to maintain the structural integrity of the building. Right now, there's no flood vents, and if the Armageddon storm did come, it is very likely it would be significantly damaged, the existing structure.
And I would also point out your extensive mitigation is also offering additional flood storage capacity.
Right.
So this is in the basement you're talking about. So there'll be nothing in the basement?
Can't have any mechanicals.
No mechanicals, no
Nothing in the
habitable
flood zone.
space.
In Massachusetts, you have to have it 1 foot above
Right,
the flood zone requirement. Flood zone's 11, all mechanicals have to be at 12 or above.
right.
And I would also note that your lot coverage calculation does comply with the 20% if, it's in a flood zone, so we kind of fall back on the old way of thinking, and it does meet that requirement. So it's not above the 20%, we're not asking to go above it, so I think
Okay.
those are all positives.
Any other board questions? Nope. I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. I get a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
I'd like to get a motion in reference to the application itself, please.
17 Monomoskoye Road West. Owners Bria D. and Elena C. of St. John, trustees of the Bria and St. John Trust, request a special permit under Section 174-17.1 and Section 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming single-family residential structure and replace it with a new single-family residential structure on property located in R3 zoning district, map 114, parcel 20, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Number one, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a special permit under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 9. Number two, plot plan. Proposed improvements for 17 Monomoskoye Road West, prepared for Bria and Elena St. John, plan date November 20th, 2023, plan scale 1 inch to 20 feet, revision date 12/18/2024, add dimensions requested by building commissioner, depicting a 150-foot distance from the furthest corner of the new structure. 3624, revised house drive, lot coverage, SAS, AC, EC, add 75 feet, and 150-foot buffers. Generator and remove vertical wall. Prepared by Falmouth Engineering, Falmouth, Mass, stamped and signed by Mike Borselli, civil engineer, number 35054, and Gary Labrie, land survey number 40039, 33124. House plans. St. John residence, 17 Monomoskoye Road West, Mashpee, Mass, prepared by Hutker Architects, A100, basement floor plan, A101, first floor plan, A102, second floor plan, A200, exterior elevations, A201, exterior elevations, A202, exterior elevations, A203, exterior elevations dated 12/13/23. Number four, condition on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the fire chief, board of health, and the conservation department comments. Number five, any change to the plan will require the applicant to return to this board. Number six, condition that the applicant seek and obtain building department review in reference to the tree bylaw, chapter 175 of the town bylaws, prior to the application of a building permit. Number seven, the board finds under sections 174-17.1 and 174-33 that the proposed project is, as submitted, is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing conditions prior to removal of the existing structure, and that there is adequate land area on the subject lot to provide sufficient parking, and there are no new nonconformities being created.
Second.
I'm going to take a roll call, please. So, Scott, what do you think?
Approved.
Okay, so you're in favor of it. Jonathan?
Ask me last.
Billy?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
I'm going to make the following statement. I'm going to go yes with it simply because I think it's a lot better for the environment. Between the IA system, between the raising, between everything that's being doing with this house, but I'm telling you, I'm on the edge, right on the edge. But I will go yes. Jonathan?
You took the words out of my mouth.
I couldn't be,
don't like this.
I couldn't be
I don't
closer.
like it at all.
I don't like it either. But you know what? After it's completed, it will be a better place from an environmental standpoint. Thank you. So, well, how are you voting, Jonathan?
Same as you.
Okay. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, mine's the one.
No, that's my pen mark.
That's mine.
Whose agenda is that?
That's yours.
What's it doing over there?
You put it over there.
Why did I put it over there? I did this to see if my pen worked. This side. See if your pen works. Coming back.
Got it.
There we go. Okay. Mike, would you like to read the first new hearing, 9 Santuit Lane, please?
We have to,
We
we
have
need to do some
24
concept.
seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. I crossed out some because I know it's being extended. Sorry, Mike. Would you like to read 24 Secaucet Point into the record, please?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is being
24 Secaucet Point Road, owners Joshua and Nicole Delman request a variance under 174-31 land space requirements and 174-33 setback to wetlands of the zoning bylaws to vary the lot coverage and setback to wetlands to allow for construction of a single-family residence on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 124, parcel 35, Mashpee, Massachusetts. Received letter from attorney requesting a continuance until the hearings dated February 12, 2025.
Okay, do we have that letter?
Yes, we do.
George, could you read it, please?
Dated January 3rd, 2025, to Mr. Ronald Bonvy. Reference Joshua Delman, 24 Secaucet Point Road. Dear Mr. Chairman Bonvy, as you know, we represent the owner of the property referenced above. It is hereby requested that the hearing be rescheduled for Wednesday, It is hereby requested that the hearing rescheduled for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, be further continued until Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, as the applicant is still awaiting revised plans to come from the architect. Thank you for your attention. Very truly yours, Mr. J. Corain.
Can I get a motion to accept that extension request, please?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I should have asked you, Mary Ann, I presume you have room on that date? And secondly, he's already signed the extension?
He left.
Where did he go?
He's still here.
His file's all there. He must have just ran outside.
He's still here.
Do you want us to move on to the next thing, Mary Ann? Do you want us to wait?
You can go on.
Okay. All right. Next thing on the agenda, next issue on the agenda, that, Mike, why don't you read 9 Santuit, please?
9 Santuit, do you have 9 Santuit? No, I don't.
Assign some.
Daniels.
1 second. So Billy is going to step down. So we will have the 4 regular members.
There it is.
Why don't we go with George? How's that?
I have it right here, just.
George,
too many
you'll be
papers.
sitting on this, all right?
Yep.
Mike, if you could read, please.
24 Secaucet Point Road.
No,
Nine.
9 Santuit.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
9 Santuit Lane. Owner R Investments LLC requests a special permit under 174-17.1 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family residential structure and replace it with a new single-family residential structure and garage on property located in an R5 zoning district, map 30, parcel 15, Mashpee, Massachusetts.
Okay, Counselor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney with an office in Sandwich, and representing the applicant tonight together with me is Mike Berselli from Falmouth Engineering. In a nutshell, what this is a tear-down, replace project for a single-family dwelling located at 9 Santuit Lane, and so we're seeking a special permit under section 174-17.1. Briefly, by way of background, again, the property is located at 9 Santuit Lane. It's a corner lot with 10,750 square feet of area and 178.2 feet of frontage on Santuit Lane. As you can see from the plan, it also backs up in the rear to Santuit Pond. The property is improved with a 2-bedroom, single-family dwelling with a lawn and a cesspool. The existing house has a footprint of 1,640 square feet, and according to the assessing records, it was constructed in 1953. The house is currently in extremely poor condition. I don't know if any of you took a site visit, but it's actually, the building commissioner is concerned about the structure, and it is secured by a fence around the property. So my client has reviewed options with regard to what to do with the property in such poor condition, and they determined that it's best economically and feasible-wise to tear the house down and rebuild a new house, and that is the proposal. The zoning district is the R5. The minimum requirements currently in the district are 80,000 square feet of area, 150 feet of frontage, 40-foot front yard setback, 15-foot side and rear, and lot coverage of 20%. The current lot is non-conforming because it does not have the size. As I said, it's 10,750 and 80,000 is required. There are other nonconformities as well. The existing dwelling is non-conforming to the rear setback as far as dimensional requirements are concerned, and it's also non-conforming to the 50-foot setback to wetlands. If you look at the plan of the existing conditions, you can see that the house has an attached deck, so whether you put the setback from the deck or the house, the deck is essentially at the water line, and the house is a few feet back from the water line. There's also a nonconformity on the north side. The current setback is undersized on the north side. Yeah, I have it in a different place. So the proposed project is to, yeah, it's 11.8 to set this out. I'm going to switch the plan to the proposed project. So the proposed project is to demolish the existing 70-year-old two-bedroom dwelling and replace it with a new three-bedroom dwelling with an attached garage and a denitrifying septic system. The house will essentially be shifted away from the pond, so where it's currently at the water line or just a few feet away, we'll be moving it to 17.6 feet away. This will comply with the 15-foot rear setback, and it will improve the nonconformity to the 50-foot setback to wetlands. The house will also be shifted to the south so that it will go from 11.8 feet on the northerly side to 23.4, thereby coming into compliance with your requirements of 15 feet, and that will eliminate a nonconformity. The south side yard setback of the new structure will be 16 feet, which is in compliance with your 15-foot requirement. And the new house will be set back from the front 43.5 in conformity with your 40-foot requirement. Accordingly, the proposed project will comply with your front, side, and rear yard setbacks and eliminate two existing nonconformities. The lot coverage will increase from 9.9% to 17%, which is compliant with your 20% requirement. And as I mentioned about the setback to the wetlands, currently it's at the water line where you have a 50-foot setback, and the proposed project will improve that to 17.6 feet. Along with the project, this is not part of your jurisdiction, but I think you should know, when the project moves the house away from the water, that area from conservation will be planted with native plantings. So where we have a house that's currently on the water, we're moving it back, and we're going to take that area and plant it with native plantings to create a natural buffer. The relief that we're seeking is under 17.1, which the board is very well familiar with. Essentially, we have to show that there are no new nonconformities and that the proposed project can be performed without being more substantially detrimental to what exists currently, and also that there's adequate parking. So I'd like to briefly address those requirements. The existing house is constructed in 1953 before the enactment of the Wetlands Protection Act and before the enactment of Title V. So it's essentially on the property, on the water line, where you have a 50-foot setback, and it currently has a non-conforming cesspool for sanitary purposes. The house will be shifted away from the pond, the buffer zone will be planted, the cesspool will be upgraded to a Title V, and it will be, if you look at the plan, it's going to be moved out as far away from the pond as possible towards the road. There's 1,000 square feet of mitigation plantings proposed. We would respectfully submit that all of those improvements eliminating nonconformities, et cetera, make the project not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. And there's parking in the garage and the driveway. And this has been approved by the Board of Health, and we have our Conservation Commission hearing tomorrow night. We wanted to be before Conservation before tonight, but the hearing that we were at, they didn't have a quorum, so it had to be continued to tomorrow.
Did you visit this lot?
Yes. So usually I take letters, which we will do. I'm concerned, though, moving forward without a conservation approval. Very concerned. I'll tell you why. I went out and visited the site, and I looked at the site, and I'm like, I had to stop for a second, get out of my car and say, is the house in the water, or is it just like next to the water? And yeah, it's next to the water, but if the water comes up at all, it's gonna be in the water. More importantly, which is not our jurisdiction, which is conservation, right? That's what comes to my head. And we have taken a stance, this board's taken a stance for quite some time, that we're the last one in the line. Why? Because no change to the plan is allowed. Don't want people coming back several times. So we've asked applicants respectfully to make sure they've obtained conservation approval before they seek our approval. So I can tell you, I have grave concerns over this application prior to receiving a conservation approval. So that being said, as one member and the chair, I would ask you to extend until such time as you finish your conservation application. Unless you choose to, you can certainly move forward, but I see a lot of problems with the application as it exists.
My response to that, Mr. Chairman, is I'd like to move forward with the hearing. We're here tonight. I'd like to make it a productive hearing and hear from the other members, and then I certainly would ask for a continuance at that time. I'd like to we're here, so let's try to be as productive as possible.
That probably makes some sense. I think that makes some sense. You can hear from the board. I get that, but just understand, at a given point, we will be asking you for an extension.
I understand.
Okay.
I also would like to say, too, that under the Wetlands Protection Act, we're required to file with all boards before we go forward with the conservation.
This has been going on for some time between us boards, but I can tell you we win. Period. It's true. Unless you want to be, we have no problem. I'm sure the board would have no problem making a decision tonight.
We're seeking an approval, so I'd like to hear the comments from the board.
There you go.
He took the words out of my mouth.
Yes.
I am
As
not
I said to you at the
happy unless
beginning,
I hear from conservation,
I see a lot of
especially on
issues
this lot.
which may get dealt with by conservation approval, but right now I have a lot of issues with this application.
Concerned about how low the lot is.
I've
Now
been
what do you have
told
for
by a
conservation?
reliable source that whenever it rains, that lot completely floods.
But again-
Is it in the flood zone?
No.
But that can be dealt with by
Not that I know of.
conservation. Let's just continue with the application, if that's what you choose to do. I get it, that makes some sense. Could you please read any correspondence into the record, please? Then we go down
Conservation,
that road.
Conservation Department comments. 9 Situate Lane. The permit hearing for this project has been continued to January 9th. Board of Health comments. 9 Situate Lane, Board of Health, 3-bedroom house, 1 on the first floor, 2 on the second floor. No door on the second floor office. Septic designed for 3 bedrooms. Not sure if there's anything else.
I don't believe so.
I don't think there is.
Okay, is that the extent, Mary Ann? Okay, so that being said, yeah, one second. Board questions, I'll go to David. Board questions?
Just a statement. I was out to visit the property yesterday, the day before. The road goes around, it's a dirt road. There's kind of a hill in the middle. You can see that all the water runs down there, right to this lot. And you can just look at the topography and see that whenever it rains, it's going to be a real issue on this lot. So is the idea, you're going to fill in this lot and bring it up?
No,
And if so,
there's no
What are you going to
fill.
do about drainage?
Yeah, there's, Mr.
Oh,
Borselli
finish,
can
but-
answer any questions too, but there's no fill proposed. There's some minor grading proposed. As far as the construction is concerned, the existing house is hoping to be demolished and moved away from the pond, and then obviously there'll be a new house built in a different location, as shown on the plan.
Why don't we put it,
No issues with that, I totally agree with you.
I,
But my only question is the potential flooding of that lot.
So we didn't do a study of the road, but our ability to control water and drainage is limited to our property. So
let me help. I think I can help this whole thing real quick in reference to drainage. I presume, Mr. Burselli, that you plan on keeping up to, I think, a 25-year storm, all the water on this site.
Yes, so we understand that the land as it exists today is low, and it's the lowest part of this neighborhood, and the water runs off from higher topography now and sheet flows across this lot and into the pond. Where our plan does a couple of things. Mr. Wall said there's no fill proposed. There is minor amounts of fill proposed. By that I mean the grade around the house is proposed to be changed by about 12 to 18 inches, just to get it so it's not in the very, very lowest part of the subdivision. But it'll be regraded such that there'll be a lawn area adjacent that can be shaped and swelled such that the surface water runs to and collects in that depression instead of sheet flowing into the pond.
So the bottom line is up to a 25-year storm, and I believe that's the velocity of the storm that we're dealing with, right, 25-year? So 25-year, I don't know, NOAA or whichever one you design under, you're going to keep the water on this site.
Yeah, our intention is not to create any surface water runoff from our site. We can't speak to all of the other
No,
properties.
no, no,
but
I'm just
our-
saying, any water that's on your site
Contained on our
is going to,
site.
up to a 25-year event, is going to stay on that site.
Yes.
It's not going to go into the pond, it's not going to go to the butter, it's not going to go into the street, it's not going to go anywhere but in the ground.
Correct.
Okay.
In addition, we were cognizant of the fact, and I'm sure you are as well, that you don't have to excavate very far below the ground before you're into the water table. Sure.
The next question.
well, that brings up the septic, because the septic's being a raised septic, you're building a retaining system.
Correct.
So that is being filled in, when Attorney Wall said you're not filling in.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. There is fill associated with creating a place for the septic system, which, by the way, we've been to the Board of Health. They granted all the relief we need under Title V and the local health requirements.
Yeah, we do them in Pompanesett all the time.
Yep. So it's what we call a vaulted septic system. It also is a denitrifying septic system. And we did that so that we provide the requisite 5-foot separation from the groundwater. Right now, there's a cesspool in the water table. So 2 feet below the ground, you can understand how a cesspool couldn't be
Oh,
outside.
yeah, I understand how it works, because I've dealt with them before. I just,
So that's the only true fill, if you will, on the lot.
I
we're
think-
not in a flood zone, so filling in isn't an issue, is it?
No, it isn't, but it is. So as one member, here's what I'm going to look very carefully at, is that for a 25-year storm, okay, that all the water is captured on the site and remains on the site, which is going to be not an easy task because of your proximity to the groundwater. As you know better than I know, because you're an engineer and I'm not. But I know enough to be dangerous. And that being said, it's not going to be easy, and I'm going to look at it very carefully. I'd like you to submit your calculations. Use the rationale method, because if you would, please.
We're going to use a rationale method of
Perfect.
a 25-year, 1-hour storm event, which is the standard.
And you're going to use NOAA, you're going to use DEP.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, criteria for events.
He's
A
not-
lot of, some engineers are using now NOAA because it's changed, that criteria has changed. It's a little bit more strict than the DEP.
Well, we're using, the rainfall
Exactly.
is 2.5 inches of rain.
Is that DEP and NOAA's rainfall?
I don't think he's in NOAA.
That is, I don't, I'm not sure, but that's the standard.
Well, if you could just take a look. Bottom line is if you're gonna use rational, that's great, because I understand rational method. I'm more than happy to take a look at it. We're gonna be very careful looking at this one, because first thing I noticed when I came around the corner, and you heard two other people here, you know, we've gotta be careful with this, very careful. And certainly, we wanna have conservation take their look and their approval process first. That being said,
I just want to throw this out there. Rainstorm, all the water currently now comes off the hill, everything slopes, it all goes onto this lot. You build up the lot, you put a wall around the septic system.
Where's the
What
water
happens when
go?
the street floods?
He's got to design something to collect the water.
Well, we're not responsible
Well, I
for
understand that,
the
but all of a sudden,
neighboring.
you've got a flooded street.
well,
How
no.
does this enter
If
into
the
plan?
if the street floods because of water coming from a different location or itself, it's nothing to do with him.
Correct.
If the street floods because of ounce of his water, a cubic centimeter of his water comes from his lot onto the street in a 24-year event, he's got a problem.
But he's changing the drainage of the.
Doesn't matter. He's got a
keep the
25-year
water
storm
on the
event
lot.
that he's got to design to, that not a cubic centimeter, cubic foot of his water can go off that lot. Period.
Yep.
Can't go to the street.
I agree. No,
And so he's got to design that criteria.
Yeah, but if it's at pond level, like water, even with the water, where's the water gonna go?
It's
He's the
going to
engineer,
end up
that's his
going into
job
the
to figure it
ground.
out.
So what we're gonna design is a shallow grass-lined recharge area, which is basically gonna be their only, like, grass area, and it's gonna be on the lot corner. And our roof and our surfaces will be, it'll be bermed and graded such that our water doesn't go out into the street, and it'll prevent anyone else's water from coming onto our lot. And then
My
that-
attitude is, that's his problem.
Exactly.
So-
That's what he has that stamp to.
Exactly.
design
That's
something
why
for.
he's gone to college for all the
We
years
have
that he
no
went
way
to
to
college.
say if he's right or wrong.
But
That's,
as long as you understand that that's something
That's our
that's dear to
concern.
our heart on this application. That being said, any other documents need to be read into the record?
yeah, he's aware of the concern.
No other documents,
When they come
okay. Mr. Morris?
Come back.
Oh, I'm probably gonna stand this hearing on its ear, but, what's being neglected is that this house, I did deem it unsafe. You guys been out there, you saw the placards. This is, to be made safe by demolition, so I am anxious to get this approved. And I kind of want to, I would rather see it be approved pending conservation approval, if that, you know, if we could condition that towards it, and maybe even to the 25-year rainstorm to be evaluated, but I'd like to move this forward if we could.
Sounds like they have a lot of work to do, though, David, doesn't it?
They're ripping the house down. The house is ready to fall in, I put a,
How are you going to condition
order
it
to
on
make-
conservation
Huh?
without seeing his
Can't bring it
drainage?
down now?
You can't.
if you do, then it defeats this whole hearing. This is a raise and replace. If you take that down, they don't have a chance in hell in replacing it.
Right, we need the house
I'm
there.
hearing, David, from the board that the board would rather see it approved from conservation first. Am I
What's
correct?
another 2 weeks?
Reason being, David, is, yeah, we can say conditioned that conservation approved it, no, we're all good, but I think Ron really wants to see those calculations, how the drainage can be handled, and we're not going to be able to see it again.
That's my biggest issue.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Drainage
I
issue,
mean,
yeah. I understand the
I
safety
have no problem
issue.
with replacing.
what
the
I'm
house.
saying is I'd rather see this
board be
condition,
willing
I'd
to
rather
maybe
see it move forward, but
The
if
board be
that's the
willing to send
way
a
the
letter or
board
something?
feels,
We've
that's
never done
fine.
this, but send something to the conservation saying, we'd really like to see them get this done quick because.
Well, it's tomorrow night,
Well, they're going
right?
tomorrow night. Oh, they're already
yeah, so
on for
you-
tomorrow night.
Well, you can, as chairman of this board, you can make the following statement tomorrow night. The zoning enforcement officer and the chairman of the zoning board of appeals would like to move this along very quickly because the house
decision
is
tomorrow night.
dangerous. And we would like to move this.
So they don't continue it.
So I'm hoping they don't continue. I'm hoping they make a decision in a positive way and that we can move this thing quickly at the next meeting, get this done.
So do you have to, excuse me, Mr. Pasoli, you have to present those calculations that Ron is talking about tomorrow night to Conservation?
We don't know, because we haven't heard from the conservation yet. Tomorrow night's our first hearing. but-
Oh, my God.
I have a,
Do they ever look, do they ever look at
prepare them
drainage
ahead of
They
counts?
typically do,
They don't look at drainage counts.
typically.
possible option? Can you give them a permit to demo the house, to do the
Yeah, but
demo?
then
No,
They
because then they don't,
They lose
no.
their-
That would be,
No, wait a minute.
that could be, that can be challenged. Once the building's on the ground, it becomes, it could be challenged. Somebody could say that's a non-conforming, they don't have permission to rebuild on that house.
I thought there was a grace period.
I think, Mr. Furbush, that might be when there's a catastrophic, like a lightning strike or a fire, then the person has a certain amount of time to rebuild. But if you voluntarily demolish your own non-conforming structure, then you have a vacant.
Well, I really don't know.
It
I
can be
don't know if this is
challenged.
gonna help you, but this board really wants to see this get done in an expedited manner.
Oh, and I really appreciate that,
So-
but
And so does the zoning enforcement officer.
But we always
That
have
may
to-
be, that may be a detriment to you when you go to conservation, actually, but what can I say?
but we have to bear in mind abutter appeals and things like that.
I
so,
trying
yeah,
understand.
Yeah, and we are trying to.
We
move
can't
this
help you with that.
I understood.
There's no butter,
We haven't talked to them about it.
There isn't any.
there's no letters from anybody.
Yeah, there's no letters.
I know, but
We
you
haven't
you
talked
never
All right, well,
know.
let's keep moving. We understand that, it seems to me the board's opinion is you gotta get by conservation first. So that being said, audience participation, anyone in the audience have anything to say about this application? Thank you. So, I think at this point in time, you've gotta get done with conservation. We're not gonna close the public hearing at this point. Please, Mr. Burselli, please make sure you give me some real good calculations, because I'm gonna look at them very close. Please don't make them tight. Give me some wiggle room.
When's
I
the
have-
next
I have-
meeting?
I have a limited area of real estate to work with.
Totally understood. I have a limited brain. The more area and the better distance you give me and the better calculations, ease that I can calculate, the better I am. So when's the next public hearing that they, February 12th, and that is our next meeting. Our next meeting, gentlemen.
May
So are
I
you-
request a continuance to the 12th?
Can I get a motion to accept the applicant's request for an extension until
I'll
February
make that
12th?
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So we're clear, right? We really want to see that.
We're very clear, and I also appreciate the board giving us those comments, so we know where we stand, and we'll come back and hopefully
I think
close the next
that
hearing.
the zoning enforcement officer has spoken his piece, and so she wants this moved as quickly as possible.
It's kind of silly to enforce that this thing stays up, subject to an approval.
is that he
I mean,
loses rights
If it's
if
a
he takes-
danger, it's just,
It's been a
nuts.
danger for a long time.
Yeah.
But,
There's a big fence around it.
Thank you.
all right. Do you need anything signed?
8-foot fence.
Oh, you do.
We need a couple things signed.
All right, then.
Yeah. Built in 33, I don't think there's been a dime put into it since.
There is a fence around it, though. That's a good thing.
What, 6, 7, 8 feet?
Yeah, chain link fence. I looked at-
All right, this one George signs.
I thought that thing was in the water.
Can't fall into the water.
The distance between the house and
Well, that's
the
part of
water.
making it safe. That's part of.
That's true, exactly.
You gotta go through a whole process to
Oh,
get
look,
it
I mean,
down.
that house looks like it's in the water. I mean, you come around the corner, I'm like,
The poor, yeah, I mean, I was frightened by it, yeah. As soon as
All
I
right,
saw it,
this
I
one
was like,
Bill
wow.
has to sign.
17 feet is what it's gonna be though, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
very much either, is it?
right now, is you wouldn't
No,
want
but
to
it's
walk
a
out the back
pond, it's
door.
not an, it's not a
It's not the
closed-
ocean.
This
Billy?
one Bill has to sign.
Why does Bill, what is it?
Tell
That's-
Billy to come in.
That one's Bill's.
This Blaisdell.
But I'm signing it, right?
You're signing it, but Bill needs to sign that one.
All right, so do we want that, Billy signing that with you guys?
What's that?
All right, there you go.
They're very.
All right, as soon as Billy comes
Oh, that
in, we
was the
will
other
go
one.
on to 27 Offway Bay.
She's waiting for Chris.
This is out there.
Oh, she was waiting for Chris to, that's why we didn't sign it.
So Billy's got it.
Bill is signing that one.
You didn't date it. You didn't date it.
We need your signature, William.
Continuation from
You do.
Secaucet Point. Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
Two more to go, well, three really. but-
We got the other one back? We've got the other one back, right?
Yeah, we already got that
Send it
one.
back, just
Sign right there.
Anywhere, right?
They just gave you house up.
Thank you,
Sign everything over
couldn't
here.
Hell of a nice guy, Bill, thank
You
you.
couldn't afford the taxes.
What is it, 1/8?
1-8,
1-8,
25.
all day.
You're the best. You. All right, so we are back to 5 regular members, and I guess, Bob, why don't you read 25 Aquay Bay Road into the record?
27.
25 Parkway Bay Road.
27.
Owners-
27.
I'm sorry,
27.
27, it's late.
27, my apologies.
Owners Miles and Diane Murphy request a variance under 174-31 zoning bylaws to allow for construction of dormers expanding the third floor of a single-family residential structure on property located in R3 zoning district, map 100, parcel 56, Mashpee, Mass.
All right, good evening, everybody. Steve Cook from Katuah Bay Design. With me is Miles Murphy, the owner. So Miles and his wife Diane are looking for some more living space in their property. Fortunately, that they have a regular lot with a lot of issues with topography, wetlands, and lot shape. So I presented a plan with the application, but we had a design change, and I submitted a plan to Mary Ann late on Friday. So she mentioned that you guys don't take plans after noontime on Friday, but if you're so inclined, it just changed the roof design a bit. So it's still requesting a third story. So looking at photographs on the house, there's a full walkout basement on 3 sides of this house, so that the building commissioner deemed that a story. There's a full first floor story, there's 2 stories, and then the second floor is a half a story that contains 67% of the floor area of the floor below, so that the house is a legal 2.5 story. But because of the irregular lot shape, existing infrastructure on the property, where the coastal bank is and wetlands, there's really no additional space to construct an addition. So we're requesting to expand the second floor to, according to the new plans, to 93%, up from 67%. So that would be requesting a variance for a third story.
So, are you all set, Steve? Yep. So, gentlemen and ladies, so in order to grant a variance, we need to, number one, make sure that it meets the criteria for a request of a variance. So that everybody on this board understands that in order to issue a variance, this board needs to, number one, find that the property meets the following 4 criteria in order to even vote on the variance. Number 1, the property has unique conditions that justify the request. Number 2, the property owner faces substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, if the ordinance is strictly enforced. Number 3, granting the variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good. And number 4, granting the variance will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent of the ordinance. We need to find all 4 of them, and then we move forward and take up the variance. So my question of this board is, does this variance meet those 4 criteria?
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
The reason you want to go up and expand is because you can't go out? There's no way-
Correct.
There's no way to expand and go out?
Correct? Yep.
I mean,
If you want, I'll share the 4 with you if you want to read them.
no.
So what's the variance you're looking for, height?
No, for a third story.
Square footage of a third story, it can't be more than 50%.
It's 2.5 stories now, we're looking for a third story.
What percentage would you be going to?
According to the new plan, I have 93% from
Basically
67%.
the whole.
From 67 to 93.
As I've said
I
in
have
the
photographs
past, I think
here,
it's
if
important that
anybody
all
wants to see some
variances we need-
And I
photographs
really
of
haven't
the...
studied the site
house.
plan is,
So there's the criteria.
I mean, it is a pretty well sloping lot. So topography is an issue.
What are we, 50?
Setback, it looks like, I mean, what is the gazebo? What is that space? This says gazebo.
What, the size?
Well, I'm just wondering why you can't add on to that side of the house. I'm just trying to nail every possibility.
Well, that gazebo is set up for the pool, so you would lose that, you lose the set of stairs going
Oh,
down
is that part of
to
the
it.
pool?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was asking, what's the gazebo? I didn't think it's in the picture. I'm just looking, is there any way you could add on to this house? That's what I'm just looking at. But I mean, I understand, if that's the pool gazebo feet is part of the pool patio area. Unless you gave up deck space.
David, what are your thoughts on this?
Can't lose this whole project.
And on the fact of whether it meets the 4 criteria?
Does it matter what I think? I think it does.
No, I think it
No,
matters.
it's good to give your input.
We like your input.
Yeah, I think that they have, yeah, I think it meets the criteria for a request for a variance, but it is a request for a variance.
Yep.
I mean, did they have to give up, they could take the deck space and make that living space, but is that our right to say you can't have your deck now, because you need, is that?
Yeah.
That is a hardship, I'd say.
I
You
ju-
can't
I-
expand the
yeah.
deck, I don't.
Again,
I
I
don't
just
really
think
know
it's
the lot
important that
well
we
enough
find
to-
that first.
So,
I agree.
yeah, what's the hardship?
You can't go out further. There's no
What's your
way.
hardship?
Hardship is the lot
Financial
shape
or
and
otherwise?
topography. That's the hardship.
Well, I'm not 100% sure you can't add on to this house.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at.
I mean,
As a builder,
you
I'm
could
saying,
go on-
I don't know why you can't, I need someone to
Move
tell me
over
why
to
you
the
can't add
deck?
on. And you'd be the perfect guy to tell me why you can't add on.
Well, on the east side, you have the gazebo retaining wall, and you have a septic system.
Okay?
So
That can all
the
be
septic
changed,
system is a higher level than the patio
That's a financial.
grade level. So,
Sorry.
so if you look at the plan, that the septic system in the ground is above the patio level there, because there's a retaining wall behind the gazebo. So if I'm trying to construct an addition, I'm gonna have a walkout basement, and I'm gonna be, the septic system's gonna be above the basement level right now. So it's more than 10 feet away, and then you get the leaching field. So that rules out that whole
What about over here?
part of the property. Then, yeah, then I have 15-foot setback on the upper end, but I'd have to do a detached structure
There is a garage.
up there.
Is there a
but
garage
That wouldn't work
in this
out.
house?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a garage drive under.
Drive
Would
on
you like to see
from the gravel
photographs?
driveway, yeah. So you can't add on to that side, right there.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm just looking for
Oh, yeah, no,
all
I
the i's
understand.
and cross all T's. You know, want to find a way to say,
about
yes,
in the
it's a
rear?
hardship.
Well, in the rear, we're within 24.8 feet of the coastal bank, and you see the grade drops off very quickly behind the house.
That's the
Oh,
part.
it goes
That's,
into.
you know, according to the
Yeah. This is what I
engineer.
needed
with-
to see.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel more comfortable that it's going to be difficult to add on to the house.
It just drops off
I
very
think you
quickly.
can add on, but you can't, you have to give up the deck. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah. You could.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's the square footage of the house? Living space inside?
Yeah, it's, I got 1192 is the footprint.
No, inside. How many square feet? of
Total?
Living space inside?
Oh, inside? Well,
1,000, 2,000, 5,000?
yeah, we're probably at 2,400 between first and second basement, first floor, and then another 800, so we're just
Is
over
the
3,000 square
basement
feet.
finished part of it?
Yeah. No, part of it's garage and part of it's finished.
All right.
Yeah.
How much is the finished? How much is the first, second? What's
I
the
didn't
total?
differentiate between the unfinished section of the basement and the finished section. Because that
Okay,
was,
well, how many people live there? Two?
Oh, there's a family of five.
5 living there?
It's, you know, not my primary, so during the summer, I got 3 kids right now. I assume that's gonna expand. So what,
I want to know,
right,
I want to know how many square feet inside of living space.
So if you include the
Whether you
base.
really need it.
You include the
It's a
basement, it's
hardship.
about 27 or 2,800. It's 1,192 minus a one-car garage and the heater room and whatnot.
Yeah, so we're probably down to,
Go up to
you know, 700 square feet of finished space in the basement.
35?
Yeah, it's a walkout on three sides.
Yeah, the only one.
Karen's not sympathetic.
I'm not either. No.
It is small for the neighborhood.
It's extremely
It's a
small.
second home, correct?
It's a second home.
It is now, but eventually I'm going to be retiring and living down
Then
there,
it'll
so.
be
Yeah, and the
two
kids will
people.
be grown and moved out, I would
And
assume.
the grandkids will come
Maybe not.
over, I mean, it's, you know, it's Pompanesett, Mashpee area, it's going to be a
don't know how many people's coming
vacation
down to his
spot
house.
for them.
Well, my concern for you right now, sir, is that you've got two people that are
Floor on.
not in favor of the application right now.
21 years.
Well, if I can just talk in layman's, because I'm not
I've never seen
a
this before.
professional, obviously, so other people that I would know would try to, if you look at it, it's a Cape house. There's only 2 bedrooms upstairs, just to give you, there's a third bedroom, and that's it's in the basement. So it's technically called the first floor, but it's a basement. And the only place, if you were to expand, is the only flat place that's like not in a wetlands or not over, I mean, not where, you know, the hill drops off and all that stuff, is the only place you can park on, it's on a hill. So the only place I can park cars, and there's only a handful that can park there, because you gotta go up a steep incline, and it's the only level place that's on my property. There's two other easements that flow over there from the other 2 neighbors, and I think this is extremely limited on what we're looking for versus building a whole 2 or 3 car garage next to it with a room
That's
over
what I
it.
was looking at, could you do a?
See, my concern, sir,
garage
frankly,
addition with a room above
Must
it?
be a
we've
lot.
got another variance to hear later on tonight, and so we just want to make sure that we're,
I've never seen this come to the board as long as I've been on the
21
board.
years, we've never approved a third floor.
no,
21 years.
You know. Have you guys done a site visit out there to see this
I
property?
have not.
I have not.
Okay, yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Well, I guess,
But I've never, 21 years.
Yeah,
Never
no,
done
I
a
understand
third
that,
floor.
yeah.
But if you
I've
look
never
at,
approved one.
if you look at the house, it's a Cape house. It's not a colon, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's technically because of the hill.
All the houses that we approve or don't approve are in Mashpee. They're all Cape houses.
Yeah.
well, what seemed to me, if I can just say, it seems to me you've got minimum 2, probably more like 3 that are not in favor of it at this point. Do you want to withdraw without prejudice? Or do you want to get a
But
vote?
how many voting members do you have?
There's 5, so you need 3.
5, need 3,
You need 4, sorry, and so you do not have 4 right now.
okay.
Just giving you that heads up.
And
You
the
you may
reason-
not have.
Because, what's the reason?
Just want to make sure they weigh out every option of not being able to put an addition on.
I think we want to make sure that variances
I
are
don't
based
really,
on.
I don't really see the hardship. to be
Necessity, a
honest.
hardship, right? And we don't see it. We don't see the hardship.
Okay, even though the lot shape and topography is.
But you'd have to be in compliance with all 4 of these things, and you don't fit within all 4 of them. That's the problem. So, but if I would recommend, it's up to you, to withdraw without prejudice. You can always come back if something changes.
Always come back with a different plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want this board to vote, it's up
Is there
to
any
you.
guidance on what different plan versus, I
One
mean,
that
I
doesn't
thought this was
include a
as
third floor.
minor
I-
as possible.
Now, I haven't done all the research, I'm not going to do the research, but it looks to me, just from what I can see, that there is room to add on the garage side and add a garage with space above it.
But that's,
Then we lose the driveway. That's only flats.
there's no,
place to
there's no
park a car.
parking, it's on a huge hill.
That's.
And it's an easement, part of the driveway is an easement for the other 2 houses.
Yeah, it's a narrow driveway coming up there.
I think
Well-
I'm sorry, but I can see that there's no question there's 2 people here that, at this point in time, are not going to vote in
And
favor.
the other-
There may be more.
The other issue I'm looking at is, you're talking about cost and trying to keep the cost down and going, this might be the most cost-effective way. You're putting in a widow's walk. So I don't see how that's trying to create space for living, for bedrooms, when you're basically trying to create a space for a widow's walk and an access to the widow's walk.
So he-
That just accessory to having the full roof.
But you're
and
giving
the-
up a lot
and
of square
third floor.
footage to get up there, that could be a bedroom.
But guys, we're not gonna get there, so.
we're not getting there, right?
You tell us what you wanna do. We're more than happy to vote on it for you. I would recommend withdrawal without prejudice, but it's your call.
Just design something.
We don't want to be.
And I'm not saying which
To
way.
Scott's point, you're trying to find a way to build
Somewhere else on
without
your
going
property
up.
for more space.
That's the bottom line?
That would help it, that would help the variance, wouldn't it?
You can have the third floor if
That's
it's
what
less
we've
than
been trying to
50%
do.
of the floor below.
Suggesting
You
other
can have a third
areas.
floor.
All right, so I have a question of the applicant. What would you like to do?
You want to withdraw?
Yeah, withdraw.
We'll
All right,
withdraw
so you'd
without
like it
prejudice.
withdraw without prejudice?
Yeah.
All right. So you're, as the applicant, you're requesting a withdrawal without prejudice. Can I get a motion to accept the?
Motion that we accept that.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next. That will be. (157) Daniels Island Road. Our 5 regular members. Mike, would you like to read it into the record, please?
There's 157 Daniel Roads. All right. 157 Daniels Road, owners Frank T., excuse me, and Christina O. Varinos request a special permit under 174-17.1 and 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise and replace an existing single-family residential structure with a new code-compliant single-family residential structure on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 105, parcel 272, Mashpee, Massachusetts, with the following conditions. We're gonna, this is the motion, that's it, right?
Now you want to read that. Okay, Counselor.
Good evening.
Hey, he's back.
So there are actually 2 forms of relief that I'm requesting on this project tonight. So there's a special permit and there's a variance request.
So we should read the second one.
So I don't know if you want to read both into the record, because they go hand in hand.
All right, you got it?
You want to read it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, 157 Daniels Road. Daniels Island Road, excuse me. Owners Frank T. and Christina O. Varinos request a variance under 174-31 from lot coverage. Existing lot coverage is 17.8%, and the proposed lot coverage is 21.9%. The owners are requesting to raise and replace an existing single-family residential structure with a new code-compliant single-family residential structure on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 105, parcel 272, Mashpee, Massachusetts.
So if I can just say, you probably want to point to the variance request first.
Sure.
Because if we can't get by that, I presume we're not going to go very far.
Yes, I'd like to give, I think it would be nice to give the board the global, but I understand, yes, if the variance doesn't go through, we're gonna have to come back. So, this is a raise and replace project. It's 157 Daniels Island Road. It's in the R3 zoning district. You need 40,000 square feet, 150 feet of frontage, a 40-foot setback, 15 feet side rear, 20% lot coverage, 35 building height, setback to wetland, 50. The existing structure only has one nonconformity, and that's the 50-foot setback to wetland, okay? So we meet the front yard, we meet the side yard, and the new project will meet all those. We're gonna improve the 50-foot side yard. The quirky thing with this lot, why we need having the variance request is, it's not out of the flood zone, it's not 100% in the flood zone, it is about half in the flood zone. So, even though, generally speaking, if it was out of the flood zone, we'd be going from 7.3% to 8.6%. If it was 100% in the flood zone, the board would go back to the old way of thinking, and it'd be 7.3% to 8.6%. But because we are basically half in the flood zone, we have this we're basically being penalized because we're not 100% in or 100% out. And so when you take half the flood zone in this lot, you go from 17.8% to 21.9. So when you look at your criteria, there is a unique topographical feature, which is the flood zone, and the fact that it's not 100% in or 100% out. You're halfway in. So again, when I bring these projects before the board, generally speaking, they're either 100% out or 100% in, and this project would meet it if you were 100% out, and the board would defer to the old way if it was 100% in, and it would conform. So again, this particular project is unique in the fact that it's half in, half out, and you would be penalizing them if they couldn't have the lot coverage they're asking, because again, if you revert back to the old thinking or outside, this project would absolutely conform. Because it's a 32,600 square foot lot, total area, but given the partial flood zone, for zoning purposes, only 12,800 square feet.
The only problem with that statement is, and we're dealing with the variance only, is just the fact that if it was a smaller house, it would fit the criteria. How much smaller, I don't know.
Well, I think it's small enough where it would create a hardship on the applicant.
No, I'm just saying that in order to meet these 4 items, one of them certainly is what are the options, right? I mean, the option clearly is not build as big of a home.
That is correct.
That's my,
I understand that.
and so I don't know if you want us, again, we'll certainly listen to your whole application, and it's up to you, but somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to go down the process of the 4 items.
Understood.
You
And
tell me
again,
when you want us to do that.
yeah, oh,
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to say one thing. You said that normally it's 100% in or 100% out. We've had many, many that are not 100%.
Not as, we have had some. I don't think it's many,
Maybe,
but,
maybe you didn't.
right, maybe not, correct. I brought a handful, but they've never had this issue where, the lot coverage gets triggered, even though it is technically
Oh,
under.
this happens all the time.
Right. So again, we're not, this house
We've been
is,
steadfast in what we do.
As a comment, you're not way over the 20%, and there are some decks on here. Could the decks be eliminated?
Do you want us to
Down
start
to the 20?
the variance question?
yeah, I'd like to go through it, because I'd like to be able to advise my client appropriately.
So are you saying that you want to go through your whole submittal?
Yes.
Or do you want to go through the variance?
I'll go through the variance. I think that the special permit is,
All right,
again,
go.
we have one nonconformity.
Well, the applicant is saying, all right, let's have a conversation about the 4 aspects of the variance request. Does he meet them? You want me to go through them again?
Sure, yep.
Okay, here they are. Number 1, the property has unique conditions that justify the request.
Yeah,
I'd say
I'll give them that.
The property owner faces substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, if the ordinance is strictly enforced.
I don't agree.
I don't agree with
That's the
that.
problem. Granting the variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good.
I don't think,
Granting the variance will not nullify or substantially degrade from the intent of the ordinance.
so on the last 2, I would suggest that it doesn't, because A, when you compare it to other houses on Daniels Island, it's the
I think your
similar
biggest
size.
problem is number 2.
Right, it's the hardship. And again,
Yeah, and again, we gotta find 4, so, again, the property owner faces substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, if the ordinance is strictly enforced.
right, well, if we have to reduce the size of the home, you're significantly decreasing the value of the home.
I don't think you have to reduce the size of the home. I'm thinking the calculations will work, that if you do something about that deck and that patio in the front, that entryway, that you might get it to the 20%. I don't know, I didn't do the calculations, but it looks, just to look at it, it looks like it might. And it won't affect the footprint of the house. Just means you gotta do more landscape type patios or,
Well, again, my argument is if
This
you
is
have...
just my opinion.
No, I understood. Again, as far as the substantial hardship is concerned, my concern with my clients is obviously they spend a lot of money to go through these plans, and, to have to reduce the size of the house, which
Why
is...
don't I do this for you, Council?
I don't think the
So-
house is aggressive and huge.
Well, that's the thing.
So Sharon, what is your opinion?
I think it shouldn't be a big issue to make it slightly smaller.
Whether it be house or deck?
Yes.
Billy?
I agree.
Jonathan?
I agree. I think you can do something else to accomplish
can
a
find a
very
way.
similar goal.
Seems to me you've got a unanimous vote,
Understood.
not in your favor.
Okay, so this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to continue the hearing on the special permit, and to the next meeting, if that's available. And I guess I continue
You might want to do
both of them, and I might have to withdraw the variance at that time.
Okay. So that being said, you're asking to continue both, let's do them separately.
I don't know if anybody on my team has anything to say, but
So, I'd like to get, so you're asking for a continuance of your special permit under 174-17-1 and 174-33 for an extension till the next meeting,
that's
correct?
correct.
And
Do I
that
get a
meeting-
motion for that?
That meeting is?
February 12th. Do I have a motion?
Valentine's.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're going to ask for you are asking for an extension and request for your variance
Yes.
until, again, February 12th. Do I have a motion for that request? So moved.
Second.
Second.
Yes, I'll
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think that's it.
That was nice and easy.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 11th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have one left, right? Motion to adjourn.
We're not ready
I'll make
for
a
adjournment.
motion to adjourn.
We're not ready? Someone? All those in favor?
Wait, wait.
Okay.
He says we're good. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Here's this.